It's time for Shawn and Maya in the morning.
Quick pitch to Walter, looking for the record, cuts back, he's got it, he's out of it at 25 to the 26-yard line. Walter Payton becomes the National Football League all-time leading rusher.
Jordan, open, Chicago with the lead. The Chicago Bulls have won their 6th NBA championship.
Chicago has won the Stanley Cup. Palmero over the head of Jenks. Uribe charges, throws, out! And the White Sox have won the World Series.
A little bouncer slowly toward Bryant. He will glove it, throw to Rizzo. It's in time, and the Chicago Cubs win the World Series.
What up, what up, what up? Welcome to Shawn and Maya in the morning on this Hump Day edition, this Wildin' Out Wednesday edition. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'm your boy, the Superback Shawn Sierra. Man, this is if you're watching this on Facebook Live, well, then I guess you found us on Facebook. Now, if you're watching this on the app, I guess you found us on the app. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, I guess you found us on YouTube. Listen, you can also tweet the show. You can tweet us at SM_mornings or at SportsZone Shy. That's CHI. At SportsZone Shy. Now, if you want to follow me, just me, personally online, want to know what I did? Let me tell you what I did. Want to know what I did? Here's what I did. I made it nice and easy for you, folks. Nice and easy. One handle for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, the Snapper. All one handle at the Shawn Sierra. And you know what day it is. It's Wednesday. So, yeah, the dynamic duo is back. My co-host, my crazy co-pilot in all of this insanity, the one, the only, the incomparable, the diminutive, yet awesome. My girl, the one and only Maya Kai. What up, Maya?
All these, accolades. Oh my gosh. I was like, okay, what's going to be that final one? Okay, I'll go with that. How are you?
I'm good. And yourself?
I'm good. Are you ready for the holidays?
I am.
Okay. Or as ready as going to be, so to speak?
That's probably the best way to put it. As ready as we're going to be. That's probably the best way to put it. It's a little crazy that the weather.
That seems to be what most people are saying. You know what? This is as good as it gets. This is how I can do it. I said, well, then that's fine. It is what it is.
The weather's going to be beautiful today. And then it's going to fall off the table.
Well, I mean, but okay, let's be honest. It seems like the last couple years we have had this type of weather where our Decembers have been relatively mild. We always think that winter is like the worst in December, and it's not. It sucks at January and February are like the worst. So I think the last couple of years we've had this nice seasonably warm weather throughout like November and December, and then January sneaks up on you and bam. And then February, you're like, oh, come on. So, I mean, this is kind of par for the course to me.
The last few years, yeah, you're right. The last few years, I want to say the last 4 to 5 years, we've had pretty mild winters in December. It's gotten really crazy after the first. But it's going to be nuts today. It's supposed to be 50 to 53 degrees today, give or take. And then it's going to drop down to 18 for a high tomorrow. So we're talking almost a 40-degree drop.
And that's generally not, you usually say like, ease me into this. Don't do that to me. Don't put me at 50 and then face plant me at 18. It's just wrong. But it is what it is. I mean, we really should be like in the upper 20s, so to speak, maybe 30s. So I don't know. That 18 is always going to suck one way or the other.
Yeah, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It does suck. It's cold. Luckily I have a garage, so that helps a lot. So when I go to CrossFit tomorrow, I'll start the car and then finish getting dressed and then go back in the garage because mine's not heated. My garage isn't heated, but so it's warmer than outside.
It's warmer,
but it's still cold.
Yeah, it's still warmer than being outside, though. Trust me. So
yeah.
Wow. Okay. Let's not be somber about it. I just don't want it to snow. I don't want any snow.
You know what?
For Christmas. I don't know. I don't even want to. Okay, a light dusting. That's it. Show people little flakes, and because snow means stuff you got to go do. Like, I don't want any snow. I know that sounds awful. Like, you know where you live, right? I'm like, I don't want any snow though.
My thought was that's the least 2020 can give us is a white Christmas, because it's screwed. It's given us so much horrible stuff. At least give me a white Christmas, and then let the temperature go back up to like 40 and rain, and then it's gone. Then the snow's gone the next day or 2 days, and then we're good.
There have been priceless memes for 2020. In fact, I laughed so hard. I just saw a commercial for Match.com where Satan was dating, and he goes on a date with 2020. It's like they're a match made in heaven. But
that's hilarious.
And it's actually funny. You're like, well, that's about right. But of all the memes I saw, the best meme, and I posted it to Facebook yesterday. I was just like on a meme tear for some reason. If it isn't Mandalorian memes, the meme said something like, I got to find it because I want to read it exactly. It says, if you think 2020 was bad, wait till it turns 21 and starts drinking.
I did see that one too. I
was like, oh boy, is that funny. I hope people can find humor in that. I was like, that is funny because that means it's going to get kicked up. Not good. So
no, not at all. So I'm hoping for the end. I can't wait to the end of the year. But if it's going to turn out worse than 2020, whoa.
You know what? To be honest, it really can't be any worse than where it is. If nothing else, we're going to mirror a little bit of what we see right now. We're already respectfully into the second, probably a third wave, but now there's a vaccine. So we'll see if that's going to help kind of flatten this out a bit. So things won't be 100% normal, to be honest, probably for another 6 months. And that normal still might be a new normal. It may not be us going back to where we were because we don't even know that yet, but things will probably open up more as we get closer, hopefully, to like midsummer. But this is all based on how well the vaccine goes.
And
so I
also,
just tell people, just prepare for this to be a little bit of the same going into next year. Just mentally tell yourself, this is how it's going to probably be for a bit longer.
And you're still going to have people who, even before they get before they get the vaccine, who are still going out and partying and hanging out and everything, and not taking care of themselves. And that's a big issue with it now. So even though you have the vaccine, we're still contracting it. More and more by the day because people just aren't taking care of themselves, and that's the big issue.
And that really is the big issue. And I had to tell somebody. I said, here's the thing. I am not a fear monger, so I kind of roll with things. So yes, COVID it's very unexpected. We've never lived like anything like this in our lifetime. So we're really struggling with adjustments to this because we are a very coddled and comfortable society. And
bingo, Maya, bingo.
We have been, I said, the reason this is an issue is because of the three things. We have lost convenience, comfort, and control. No, I'm just kidding. And because of this is why people are really struggling. If you roll this back 50 or 60 years ago, do you realize people probably would have handled this a lot better? But because of social media, the news coverage, which I can appreciate all the information, but people have to understand you're getting a mass amount of information often on the fly. And I'm not saying it's not true, but at the same time, there's so much information that people don't know. And they rely on the news. And I kind of feel like they're creating this fear for people. And here's my thing. I don't want you to fear COVID-19. I want you to respect it. Respect the fact that it's a virus. It can be deadly for some people. I just saw something on CNN where one guy's in the hospital. He had 6 people who died of COVID already, and his family, immediate family. And I was like, Jesus Christ, my heart went out to that man. So understand that it may not be deadly for some people, but it clearly is for others. And this is what makes it so complicated. So please just be mindful, though, maybe you're okay. You could maybe end up giving it to somebody that isn't going to be okay. And that's the part
exactly it.
That's what people are struggling with. I'm asking people, just don't be selfish. And I know it's a lot because everyone's life has changed, but you being safe, like washing your hands, wearing your mask, doing all that stuff, not having unnecessarily large gatherings could be the difference of saving somebody's life. So
just large gatherings, because at this point, every large gathering is pretty much unnecessary. What can you name one large gathering that is necessary? Funerals, there's protocol. You shouldn't have birthday parties, shouldn't have the nightclub. Well, most clubs in the city are closed anyway. So, they're all closed, but there shouldn't be any large gatherings, period. I know that people are really upset about the holidays. Well, I'm doing this, I'm going here, I'm going there. And you're right. You're so right about it. If this happened years ago, when we were kids, it would have been dealt with in a totally different manner. And this thing wouldn't have lasted as long as it has, because people would have been more apt to follow, especially if we were younger. Our parents would be like, no, you're staying your ass at home. Okay. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. You're not doing this, but now you have this entitled generation where like, my civil rights are being violated. Like, no,
it's not, what people have to realize, and I say this all the time, but people can't wrap their mind around it, because there's a certain amount of enlightenment that comes with this. This has been the thing that has challenged people. And the thing I constantly say when I do my mental health podcast is it's about perspective on this. This isn't personal, though it feels really personal. COVID doesn't care who you are. It will reach out and touch everybody. That's just how it is. It is indiscriminate in what it does. So the reason that it touches everybody means it's going to impact people different based on your circumstances. So your circumstances coming into COVID outside the health piece is going to greatly affect how you have been able to survive during COVID. So I'm going to flat out tell you this. Some people who are introverted and like staying at home could care less about this. You know why? Because that's what they were doing. For the people who are a bit more social and getting out, this is difficult. But you have to realize, because Vernon Fairley just said, well, being at home all day isn't. But here's the difference. You don't have to be home all day. You can get out, go for a walk. I saw more people on the walking path than I've ever seen. Get outside, enjoy nature, and appreciate your surroundings. This is where things like FaceTime and they've created these things like now, like on Disney and Sling, where you can watch a movie together in a group. So you're all logged in the Sling, and you guys can watch it together. So they're creating all these ways. What's funny is, for the longest time, Shawn, people totally had no real consideration for the human connection. That FaceTime, hanging out with people, spending time with family. And now everybody can't get enough of it. And I think that's interesting that people are more interested in texting people and not calling people. And all of a sudden now that's changed for them. And that's good. But understand that you don't always have to be out and about. Just go outside for a walk. I mean, when's the last time somebody picked up a book and read it? I'm just saying, there's just different things you can do to cultivate yourself and work on the better version of yourself during this difficult time. And the easiest thing to do is, Vernon, just go get a cat and you'll never be alone.
Oh, I don't know how much are screaming everybody at Vernon. And Vernon, we love your comments. He says, "Scream everybody on the Clubhouse app."
What's the Clubhouse app?
That's the newest one. I don't know, because all I know is the house party, but a Clubhouse app, I don't know. I'm not up on it, so I don't know.
Well, I read. You know what? So Johiza, De Jesus, who came on our show, who was
Florida
Jason's
girl,
friend. Right. So I follow her, and so she was doing these TikToks with her kids, and she was dancing.
Yeah.
And I said, Johiza, we need to have a Zoom dance party. I said, because you don't understand how much I like to dance. And I said, I think we can do something with this. She's like, I'm like, seriously, it was this. I was enjoying watching her do it. I said, it's small. A lot of people are just kind of tying in different ways. But anyways, back to the business of sports. We could talk about this all day. We probably should be doing a whole nother show just dedicated to, let's just talk about how COVID's affected your life. Anyways.
Well, you know what, connecting the two, wouldn't it have been something? Wouldn't it have been something if Ohio State got left out of the Big Ten championship game because they didn't have enough games because of COVID, when Ohio State was one of the front runners and pushing for, we should start playing? I think that would have been, you talk about karma and apropos, that would have been so apropos. But you know what? The Big Ten said, oh, you know what? We made this rule, so we're going to make another rule just because we can. And I was a little annoyed about that.
I have exception to that, because I just don't feel that they deserve to be there. I'm perfectly fine with Notre Dame being there. They technically won some games. I know Joseph's waiting to come on. I know he's got stuff to say about this. And I know I see him in the green room back there. I see him.
You got your X-ray vision. You see him?
Yes, I can see him. But we could get to that. Let's get on. Who's our guest today?
Well, listen, guys, we have a great show. I am not bulljabbing. We have a great show. Our guy, Joseph Phillips, is coming up in any moment, as soon as we're done with this craziness. But then at 10 o'clock, Eric Lambert's going to come on. We're going to talk a little Bears football. Now they're talking the P word. Oh, my God, playoffs? Yeah, so Eric Lambert, we're going to talk about why this has happened, what the change was, and is it a realistic goal for the Bears to win a playoff? And the repercussions, who stays, who goes. If they make the playoffs, we're going to talk to Eric Lambert at 10 o'clock. Then at 11 o'clock, Michael Bolden from CBS Sports. He's a senior NBA editor over at CBS Sports, and he's going to call in. The NBA kicked off last night with a should have been a very competitive game, but because someone else got injured in the offseason, it wasn't. The Brooklyn Nets played the Golden State Warriors without one of the Splash Brothers, and it was not pretty. But the Bulls play tonight. You see me, I'm in my Bulls gear. Look at me. I got my old school one. We're talking like the 1998 Bulls suit and jersey. Yeah, I found
trying to channel that energy in there. Like,
yes.
Look, come on.
Yes.
Do you discover your inner 90s Bulls players?
You know it, baby. You know it. They're hosting the Hot Atlanta Hawks today at the UC. And so we're going to talk to Michael Bolin about that, the Bulls as well. Well, guys, you know how we do the first segment of every show. It's called Top of the Morning to you. And these are the hot topics of the night before or just some sports in general. And boy, oh boy, do we have some doozies. And you know, the Top of the Morning segment is powered by the Chicago Crusader newspaper. And with that, we bring in their guy, we bring in our guy, we bring in your guy, the one, the only, the guy you can find on Twitter at ACA Joe. Bring him out, Joseph Phillips. Joseph, what's up, Papa?
Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Dude, you got the Venezuelan flag all up on you. Look at you, red, blue. You hanging the Ozzie Guillen Jr. What do you tell that about?
Oh man, it's all about representing Christmas right now.
Okay, I thought you did a Venezuelan kick right there with the colors of the flag. That's okay.
Nah, man, I'm staying away from politics, man. That's been the issue of 2020.
Oh, tell me about it.
Everything's been politicized, including COVID. So that's another subject within itself.
Yeah,
yes, it is.
Yeah,
that was
the first part of the show. That was the first part of the show that me and Maya had.
Red or the blue pill. That's when it comes to COVID, you have to pick the red or the blue pill. It depends on what you live with.
Yeah, that's true.
But anyway, I'm doing fine.
Yeah. Good. Well, good, man. Listen, let's get into it. The top of the morning topics. The first top of the morning topic: the Bulls open their season tonight, hosting the Hot Atlanta Hawks, and the new regime looks good. The Bulls finished 3-1 in the preseason under their new coach, Billy the Kid himself, Billy Donovan. Woo, Charlie, yeah. Boom, 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 boom. You know, these are popular now since you can't touch people and you're like, what's up?
He's the Joe Kim Noah guns.
The joke. So talk to me, Maya. What do you think? Did you get a chance to watch any of the Bulls preseason? They finished 3-1. First game they lost, and it was but the next I liked it, but I want to hear what you thought about this pretty much same, but new Bulls team.
Here's the thing. I really felt they played with an intention. Like they looked like they were present on the floor. You know what I mean? Like it just seemed like last year there was a disconnect. They just didn't seem like they were interested. I mean, and granted, it was, you know, they weren't playing well. There was all these issues. We all knew that Bolin was not the right coach. But I felt like, one, I saw better guard play. That was the first thing. Donovan and Cheeks are perfect for them. This is going to make Kobe White so much better. This is where Levine, you know, he doesn't have to be the only one. I saw them spread the floor, create shots. The only person who seemed not where I'd like to see him, and I feel like he's got to mentally retool himself, was Lowry. He was the only one to me that didn't quite seem right, but I know he's coming back last year from injury. I felt like last year they had him on a position a lot. I didn't necessarily I want to see him more in the post. I hate seeing big men at the top of the key. That's always going to drive me crazy. You know, I want him to get back to being physical again, like he was before they softened him up. I thought Patrick Williams looked great. Everybody was used really well. Offensively, they played respectable defense. So I feel like going into the season, by no means am I looking at them saying, "Oh, absolutely, like this is not playoffs." But being in the like winning the championship. But do I think they're good enough? I said this last year with their talent, but the coaching was so poor to me. They're good enough to be a 7th or 8th seed in the East. They're good enough for that. Now let's just see if they can pull this all together and get more out of it. We'll see. But I will go back to saying I feel like they're a 7th or 8th seed because, you know, this year you got people coming back in the East. You know, obviously you're going to have Durant and others. So that's going to make it a bit more complicated for them. But I still feel they're good enough to be competitive to make the playoffs, not go deep, at least be your 7th or 8th seed.
Joseph?
Well, I totally agree. They have that potential. And I have an analogy for the Bulls. And I know you guys probably remember this growing up. You know, remember when growing up you had a substitute teacher and your behavior changed? You know, you knew that when the sub was there, it's like, Whoo, yeah, we can do whatever we want to do.
Party.
So I look at last year as they had a substitute teacher in Jim Boyler. You know, they were able to get away with a lot of bad habits on purpose, you know, because he didn't know what he was doing. He just had the lesson plan, but he never knew how to implement it. So this year, you have a real teacher in the house in Billy Donovan, and he's watching every single thing you do, everything from your strengths and weaknesses. You're being evaluated. So this year, you can't come into your homeroom class and play games and take possessions out. I hear him already calling out Zach LaVine, and he says that I love Zach. I like the fact that he has the ability to play defense. But what I don't like is that sometimes he take plays off. So we're not going to hide that this year, okay? He says that he's going to find a way to allocate his minutes. He says some guys don't have the ability to go 30-plus minutes. Sometimes we're going to have to play them 18 minutes. Some games we're going to have to play them 20. But for the guys that can go all the way, we're going to play them in those minutes because we're going to need to match other teams' intensity. So with that being said, I'll be at the game tonight. Can't wait. And it should be an interesting matchup.
It should
Nice.
be. I'm excited because you know what I saw exactly what you mentioned, mine. That's better guard play, and that's a higher IQ from the guards, and you know as well as I do, and we all know that when you have good guard play, you can be very effective. It doesn't matter what level of basketball you're on. It's much better play because you're able to orchestrate and to guide and direct players to get to where they need to be and make things run. So I'm looking forward to it. And that's going to be really, really cool to see the new regime get ready and you know, buckle your seatbelts because it's going to be a ride. It's going to be an interesting ride. Moving on, the next top of the morning topic, even though we're moving on, we're going to stay with the Bulls. How about this? Lowry Market and the Bulls they are not able to come to an agreement on an extension before the deadline yesterday. So how is this going to affect his performance? Do you think Maya is going to hurt because he's a little annoyed, or do you think it's going to help because it may motivate him as far as his performance this year?
You know, I would like to feel it's going to help him, but to be realistic, Shawn, it could go either way because we don't know what has been said. We don't know what the climate's been like. But this is also a different management team we're looking at who knows what they're doing. I like Lowry Marketing, but it doesn't mean that he's not expendable. He's no Doncic. Yeah. Let's be honest. He's not. So if they deal him somehow down the road, do I think that makes them a worse team? No, because I have faith in middle management. They're going to be assessing everything that happens and what's not working. And they're going to go out and get the pieces that are missing come either, let's say, trade deadline or next year, depending upon where they're at in regards to the season. So as much as I like Lowry Marketing, his play stepped down last year. But I don't put that entirely on him. It's how he was being used. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So, oh, God, yeah.
It was really how he was being used. So I could see him being annoyed by it. And, you know, your agent always is going to be in your ear like, hey, you know what? But you can't look at him and say you've earned, because what has he earned? Nothing. He's earned nothing. I mean, so it's unfortunate. But for me, you should be playing for, if this is not going to be my gig, where's my gig going to be? So I need to be playing at a higher level, at that level I was playing, let's say 2 seasons ago. So whether I'm here or I'm someplace else, I show I have value. So I say he should go out playing with motivation. If he doesn't, then that tells you that's a player you should deal. That's how I feel about it.
You know, Joseph?
Yeah. No, I was just listening to Maya. Yeah, you made an excellent point. Like, one thing you mentioned was that it's how they use him, you know? And nothing against the Bulls, but they have some dirty negotiation tactics, man. I mean, I don't know. They just don't like paying people, or they just don't know what they're doing. Because Lowry game was on point in his first 2 seasons. And then for some reason, you know, they start like messing with his game. They start making these adjustments. They took him from being a 2-point shooter to just a regular 3-point shooter. They told him stop slashing because of the analytics department, which includes like one guy, you know, with a mask on, like in front of the computer. Or their development department, which is like one guy, you know, like. Those days are over, and he has every right to use that as leverage in his negotiation. But you're dealing with the Bulls, and hey, they telling him to put up or shut up because AK ain't trying to hear that. You see what I mean? Like, hey, either you're gonna come out there and perform, or you just don't get paid, or you can move on because we actually got our eyes on somebody else in 2021. So if you don't want to fill that role and play hard, that's fine with us. But you have to prove to us that you can earn that contract.
And I think they're right. I think they are right. You know, he hasn't been healthy. He hasn't proven anything. So earn it. You know, don't just give money away. And we know Reinsdorf doesn't just like to give money away. He likes to give money away to the wrong people. But that's another story. But you know, he's one of their own. So you got to take care of your own. You got to make sure that that he's taken care of. But you also want to have to make him prove it. You know, you don't want a situation where I'll if they signed him, if they would have signed him, I wouldn't have been upset because I know that this guy has what it takes. We've seen it. We've seen him, what he can do. We've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen, you know, and so it's not as if, you know, it's like, well, what could he be? What couldn't he be? He just has to stay healthy. And once he does that, I think it's going to be, he might actually get a bigger contract than he would have if they had they been able to come to a negotiation, you know. So, you know, here's a chance where another athlete gets to bet on himself, and hopefully for his sake he wins, because that's a whole lot more dollars if he wins.
Yeah, it sounds like he's in a Mitch Trubisky situation, you know, like you know, like your coach has been underdeveloping you for so many years, and then finally you start to have a consistent breakout because the playbook is finally tailored to your strengths. So, you know, that's unfortunate that coaches can destroy a career like that if they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, it is. So listen, we got to take a quick break. On the other side of the break, we have more top of the morning topics. So don't go anywhere, folks. Keep it locked right here. Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Shawn and Maya in the morning.
BoomerNaturals.com presents the Sports Flash on 1330 and 95.9 The Zone. The NBA season getting underway tonight. The Bulls at home against the Atlanta Hawks. 7 o'clock Central tip-off at United Center. First of 3 straight at home for the Bulls to open the season. They'll host the Pacers on Saturday night and Golden State on Sunday before heading out on the road. Tuesday night at Washington. New Year's Eve against the Wizards in D.C. Then New Year's Day at Milwaukee before returning home against the Mavericks on Sunday, January 3rd. The Bears looking to make it 3 straight wins when they visit Jacksonville this Sunday. Noon Central kickoff. They'll wrap up their regular season at home on the 3rd of January against the Packers. On Tuesday, the Bears activated wide receiver DeAndre Carter from the COVID-19 list and signed running back Spencer Ware to the practice squad. This update brought to you by the Score app. Download the free Score app today. It's one of the most popular sports apps in North America. Chuck Sanders, that's the Sports Flash, 1330 95.9 The Zone.
Listening to this Allstate commercial about savings might be the hardest thing about getting those savings. Save for simply becoming an Allstate customer. Save more for adding DriveWise. And save even more for driving safely. Visit Allstate.com or contact your local agent for a quote today. Allstate. Minimum effort, maximum reward.
Not available in every state. New customer savings based on early signing discount. DriveWise is an optional feature. Savings vary based on how you buy. Subject to terms and conditions. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
There's an underdog story happening today in America. Small businesses are fighting to make a comeback, but in the moment they have the least, they're giving the most. They're rallying communities and neighborhoods, yet asking for little in return. Well, it's time we gave back. Small Unites is making it simple for everyone to take action and support the small businesses that unite us all. Find out how you can donate, shop, and share today at smallunites.org. Let's be there for them.
Welcome back to Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago. We're smack dab in the middle of our first segment of the first hour, our top of the morning segment, and we're going to move on. We have tons of other questions, other topics to deal with. Staying with the Bulls. Next top of the morning topic, former Bulls head coach Doug Collins has been nominated for the Hall of Fame. You know what? I love it. You know, he's a local guy. Went to ISU, Illinois State University. Gets drafted number 1 by the Sixers, number 1 overall, if I'm not mistaken. My man has some skills, and he coached the Bulls right before the Phil Jackson era took over, Phil Jackson was actually on his staff.
Mhm.
And now he is one of the names nominated for the Hall of Fame. Your thoughts, Maya, on Doug Collins?
I mean, I've always liked Doug Collins. I mean, his time in Chicago was respectable. You know what I'm saying? So I don't take exception with it. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, we just have to like put a blinder up about Phil Collins. That's all. I'm not Phil Collins.
Jackson.
Phil, I made two people one time. We had to put a blinder up about that because we can't judge it based on, I guess we could say that, because it doesn't look good necessarily. We just have to respect what he did when he was here. He's a good coach. He is. I like what he did. So with that, it's just a coach thing. Put him in there. Who cares?
Yeah, I just believe that the Jordan era was broken up into two points of views. I said his first part would consist of individual accolades, and Doug Collins was a big part of helping Michael Jordan become the Defensive Player of the Year when he coached him. He was the MVP of the
All-Star game.
He was the MVP of the All-Star game. He won a dunk contest. So Doug was there. He took Michael's game to the max. Like it was equivalent to that Wilt Chamberlain season when how Wilt Chamberlain dominated. Mike averaged 37 a game one year. So
37.1. Yep.
Yeah, 37.1. So Doug, he took Mike's game to the max, but unfortunately, he was being backdoored by Jerry Cross and the rest of his minions. And I'm not going to include Phil in that because Phil was being, how can I put it? Cross was pretty much, he was extortioning Phil. Like he used him, like he extorted him. Like, hey, I brought you out of poverty. I'm giving you your only chance. You better not say a word. It was kind of like that. And he kind of forced Tex winners on Phil, so it was kind of like, you see what I mean? But anyway, Doug Collins, congratulations. He made it. And I think he's a very intelligent basketball mind with a high basketball IQ. And
let me ask you guys this question. If there is no exit of Doug Collins, are the Bulls still the same Bulls? Do they win as many championships as they did?
No.
Okay.
Nope. Because
So does that affect the idea of, does he then belong in the Hall of Fame?
Well,
I'm just throwing it out there. I like Doug. So I'm just saying, but when you're putting this through like the litmus test, just because I like you doesn't mean you should be in the Hall of Fame. Just because you have a great basketball IQ, but did that ever equate into? See, again, this is always those intangibles that are hard to quantify. You look at this and you say, what are the qualities that make you a Hall of Famer? Is it about your hardware? It doesn't have to be with the Bulls. It's like, were you able to go on to other organizations and duplicate similar success with a different type of talent and make them a winning team? See, that's what I think is complicated about this, because if we feel like he couldn't have done what I keep calling Phil Collins. You know why? Because I was listening to some Phil Collins stuff yesterday. I think now
were you?
Now I think it's like down to my brain because the word Collins keeps coming up. Phil Jackson. So for me, that's complicated, because if we don't think he could have done it, honestly, what Phil did, and he didn't go on to other places and have the same level of success that he had in Chicago because of the talent, then at this point, what makes you a Hall of Fame coach?
Yeah,
Let me stop. I feel like I'm being bad.
No. It's just like, it's not his fault that he was coaching the greatest player in the world. And then his job was to turn him into a team player, but Doug was a scorer himself, so he was kind of molded in that way. It was like, hey, everybody get the Michael Jordan the ball and get out of the way. That's what he said in the press conference, so that was his mentality,
Right. So
he's going in as a player. That's just as a coach. So he's going in as a player. Remember, he was the number one overall.
Right. So
out of high state.
Yeah. So I wish him well. I do, because I like him and he was a good player. So put him in, whatever. I don't care.
And he made it to the 77 finals with Dr. J, right?
Put him in.
With George McGinnis and Dr. J. Did he play with them? World History.
Yeah, because he spent 8 seasons, so he would have been there until 81. So yes, for that team. So it's you know what, I would like him to do that. I'm a big fan of Doug Collins.
I do like him. That's why I'm like, just put him in, just for GP. Put him in.
Yeah.
He's one of Mike guys. Put him in.
Right. Go ahead.
You were correct, spot on, Joe. Where you talked about Michael's game, his individual game, going to new levels under Doug Collins, and it really did, because that '88 season was arguably, it's up there. It may not be the best season because Wilt was just dominant back in his day. The competition was nowhere near it, but there's neither here nor there. But he's definitely at the table. When you're and the NBA MVP and also the scoring leader, the NBA MVP, the All-Star MVP, first team All Defense. That's not and don't forget, the guy averaged like almost 40 minutes a game, or high 30s or low 40s a game. Just coming out at the end, at the end of quarters. Right before the end of the third quarter, he'd come out. At the end of the second quarter, he'd come out. So he'd get to the end of the second quarter, the break in between, and the beginning of the end of the first, beginning of the second, end of the third, beginning of the fourth, and then he'd go the rest of the way. So this guy was. You talk about, we never heard of time management at that particular point, or load management at that particular point. Not with them. This guy's playing 37 to 40 minutes, in his MVP season, playing both sides of the ball. So and Doug Collins was instrumental in that. So I think his whole body of work as a player and as a coach, I think he should, and I hope he'll be able to get in, and that would be pretty cool. Another person who's associated with the Bulls inducted into the Hall of Fame. The next top of the morning topic, we're going to go over to the Diamond. Shine bright like a diamond. The White Sox are shining bright like a diamond. They just signed the number 1 international prospect, Yoelqui Cespedes. He is the half brother of the Mets guy, Yoenis Cespedes. This guy's an outfielder, and this Cuban connection for the White Sox has come back to reap some
Team
awards
Cuba.
yet again.
Team Cuba. I'm just telling you, that's what it is. I'm okay with it, obviously. So, I mean, again, it's, I'm still kind of settling in with the whole Dane Dunning thing. It still has rubbed me the wrong way. That's still, because I felt like, I was like that about Chris Sale for a minute too. So I'm still kind of letting that settle, because I still feel at the end of the day, he shouldn't have been let go. And I hate the fact that Dylan Cease is still on the roster, because I just feel like Dunning was better. But that's neither here nor there. And I do still feel the pitching situation, to me, is not a clear-cut picture. So I do we did need the outfielding thing addressed. We did, but that's not the Achilles heel to me right now. It's the pitching. We still don't know. So it looks good. It sounds sexy. Great. I'm okay with it. I need Bauer.
Well, congratulations to you guys. Landing the number 1 international prospect. As long as you guys don't touch Christian Hernandez, we're good.
I mean, it's, again, but the other piece of this that I think is nice, here comes that you're seeing the longevity this team is about to have. We're not talking about 1 or 2 seasons. This is when you say there's been a culture shift, and this is something that, generally speaking, I would say the Cubs have always done relatively well. And I think because they changed the way they were doing things and dealt so many prospects, that culture shift is different. You've kind of done the opposite, but I get it. Sometimes it happens, but I think they were focused on the winning now because you had a team that could win now. The White Sox have finally got to building a team together that can play together for numerous seasons and can compete opposed to win right now. So that culture shift mentally has happened, and that's fantastic. Thank God for Rick Hahn for that, for giving that shift, because Kenny Williams could never understand that. So now he's put another, horse in the stable that creates that longevity. It's still the pitching. That's my concern.
Yeah, you guys are loaded, man, from top to bottom. You got old man Tony running the team now, and I think with his ability, as they say, didn't they say that he's fluent in Spanish right now?
Yes, he is.
He's bilingual. So he has he's 74, and then by the time that kid come up, he'd probably be like 80.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's important he can speak Spanish. That means they can't talk about him. They can't be back in the back clubhouse talking smack about something. Right. He'd be like, "What you say about?" Because Tony will check him. He'll be like, he'll check him. That's the thing I like about him.
Tony be like the mob on Goodfellas. You start talking like this. He's
like, he might try to be like, he might be in the clubhouse saying, "I'm not Tony La Russa, I'm Tony Montana." Go back there and start, let me get you back in the corner. Oh, by the way, okay, Vernon, do not talk about Pitbull. Okay, I freaking love Pitbull. Globalization is my station on Sirius XM. I'm serious. I love Pitbull. Christian, this is there. Love him. So you cannot talk about Pitbull. I'm sorry. Anyway.
That's his real name, Christian?
Yes. I'm like, I love Pitbull.
What's it like, Christian Rodriguez?
No. What's his last name? Oh, it just escaped me. It'll come to me. I'll remember it in a second. But yeah, so I'm sorry. No Pitbull jokes. Matter of fact, Pitbull can be the theme music in the park and it'd be great to me. Are you kidding me? Oh my God. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I want to see this. Hold on. It is Armando Cristian Perez. Armando Christian Perez is Pitbull's real name. Okay. I didn't know it was Armando.
He goes, wait a minute, Pitbull equals the Cuban Flow Rider. Okay, why you playing? I like Flow Rider. So you keep bringing up people that I actually like. I don't need gritty craziness in my music. So that works for me, So yeah.
Armando Cristian Perez.
And it's interesting because I don't know how he got the name Pitbull. Because he doesn't strike from day one, he never came across as a very aggressive fella, so to speak. You know what I mean? I don't know. He didn't have that persona. So I don't, you think of a pit bull, you think like a killer. You know what I mean? Even though I guess they are really sweet dogs. They just have the wrong reputation, so to speak. But you think pit bull. So I don't know. I wonder how he got that name.
It's just, stage name, I guess. And what I don't know what led him to that. But yeah, probably his stage name and how that's a good question. We should get him on the show and ask him because he likes sports.
You guys,
just curious. How did you come up with that name?
Guys, did y'all know this is an interesting fact? Also, Steph Curry name is Wardaro, I think. Wardaro Steph Curry. His real name is Warlardo or something like that.
For some reason, I didn't know that, but I could see that being no, Chihuahuas are Mexican. No. So he'd be more like a Havanese because Havanese are Cuban dogs. I could see that just his mother. I could see that him giving him a name like that. I don't know why. I didn't know that though, but I can see that.
Yeah. Wardell, Wardell, Wardell Stephen Curry II. But wow!
I'll tell you.
So that's his dad's name. That's his dad's name because
I would go with Steph too.
Yeah, hell yeah! Hey Wardell. Hey Wardell.
His daddy's name Dell, right?
It is Dell, so it's Wardell.
Wardell, the second. Okay.
So Dell Curry was like he went with Dell. Okay, I get it. See, even he was like, yeah, I ain't feeling the Wardell part.
That's who pointed that out too. My wife. I was like, what? Where you get this fact from? Give it here.
You know what's funny? We were talking about this at CrossFit today. How back in the day, people would come up with some interesting names like Gertrude. And some other things, and you name them, and that's the names of that generation. Right. But as you move into generations, you want to name after your aunt or your grandmother or somebody that meant something to you. But as you moved in, you don't want a girl growing up with a nickname Gertrude. You know what I mean?
Okay, but here's the thing. Names to me have a lot to do with your age. So Gertrude doesn't seem really awesome when you're younger, but when you're 80 and your name is Brittany, that don't seem right. Hey, Brittany. Hey.
But when you're 25 and kicking at the club, like, hey, Gertrude. Right,
that's what I'm saying. So it's about your respective age. But there are some names that are timeless. So it doesn't matter which, I'm trying to think. A name like
Meadowlark Lemon.
What is it?
Meadowlark
Lemon. That's a timeless name. You can't ever forget that name.
From the Globetrotters.
I don't know, a name and this is not if your name is Leslie, it's a name that doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? It's just it's not an old name, it's not a young name, it's a neutral name. It's a neutral age name.
Too.
It's a neutral age name. So if you could be Leslie when you're 10, and then maybe hey Les, you know what I mean? It just kind of goes with you as you grow. But I'm sorry, when your name is like Brittany or even like Mackenzie, those are really nice names. But when you 90, when you're I don't know, it's just some names. My mom nailed it. Maya's good all the time. This works.
This dude like my granddaddy. This dude like my granddaddy used to do. He called all his grandbabies and children Joe by his first name.
Joe.
I was the only one named after him, you know, so it was kind of like, oh, I'm Joe anyway, so it doesn't matter. Yeah.
But it's interesting, but okay, but I know a couple people who just have kids and they actually gave them like Grace, which I think is a beautiful name. They do kind of have older names, but I was like, so I think there is kind of a return of giving older names. Like, okay, let's be honest, I don't think Ethel is ever going to get resurgent.
That name came up this morning. That's funny.
I just don't like when people name their babies after cars and perfumes and colognes and drinks like Cristal and Hennessy. You know,
well, I don't understand. I agree. I don't know why somebody. Okay, I'm probably about to insult somebody.
Most likely.
I know it is. But when people give their kids names like Diamond, I'm like, that's a stripper's name all day long. And I have to go through life with my name being Diamond. I'm sorry. I mean, it sounds that can be a nickname. You know what I mean? Like Diamond. But when people give their kids names like, and I know people, I mean, I'm gonna shut up. Because I don't want to insult anybody, because I know people who have names, and I was like, it sounded like a great idea when it was done. But people have to realize you have to go forth into life. And seriously, that's
I know this little kid named Heaven, but she act like the devil, you know.
Right name's like Heaven.
Your kid after Angel, and she up here tearing up the class.
Well, Angel is one of those names that, like, okay, actually, Angel doesn't. That's a kind of a cross-cultural name. So if someone's name is Angel, that doesn't bother me. Right. So Angel, like, for a long time in the U.S., it took us to know that Jesus was Jesus, so we weren't calling people Jesus. Why is your name Jesus? It's Jesus. Excuse you. So it's just certain, you know what I mean? There's certain names. When you name your kids, please be mindful. They have to go into life with that forever. And if you're going to give them a crazy first name, give them a middle name they can work with.
Right. Yeah. Right for the facts.
So I can
like
be
Wardell, Steph.
Wardell.
You ever notice why people will have a first initial like B, B Matthew, whatever their name is? I'm like, what's your first name that you just want to put an initial and not use it? I'm just curious.
You know what's really funny? Some people name their kid, that's the first name is the initial. My roommate from college, his real name, his first name, it's T. Troy Dixon.
Okay.
T. Troy Dixon. So
why?
I have no idea. So he started going. So obviously we do him as Troy, but then he started getting a little funky. He's like, just call me T. Troy. Just call me T. Troy.
No, it's. I mean, the name thing is like people have to. And I see some names, if I get to the point, when I get to the point when I look at your name and I can't figure out how to say it.
Yeah, that's an issue.
When people start just making up names, I'm like,
yeah, that's definitely an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Well, moving on.
Hey, IKEA. Okay, go on. We digress. Making fun of people's names. Okay.
Yes. Thank God the bosses aren't listening. Or maybe they are.
No more Pookie, Shawn, Ray, and Mike jokes. No, just joking.
Well, the Cubs, speaking of, we talked about my White Sox, your Cubs. Joseph, you nabbed an outfielder, Philip Irving, yesterday.
Woo!
He's so enthused.
He struggled a little bit. He had a decent year in 2019 playing with the Reds, but he struggled last year. He's 28. He had his slash line was 149, 292, and 189 with no homers in 37 games between the Reds and the Mariners. Whoa! Your thoughts, Joseph? Let him. He's a Cub dude. So let's talk about this with the Cub guy.
Like the Cubs are only interested in projects right now because they don't have any money. So, they don't have any money to give to invest in the team. They got money, but they're not going to spend it this year. But I'm not surprised. Like, you're going to see a lot of signings like this, and either they're going to work out or they're not. Like these guys got a chance, to prove themselves. So hey, you can change your career if you come here and get into our project program and see if you can develop into a 300 hitter or a leadoff hitter or a great outfielder. I just don't want the Cubs to go back into this marketing ploy of, you know how it was when the Tribune ran the team, where we sold out in spite of who's on the field. And I think they're going to try to market, we're the 2016 world champions. That's not going to fly with this generation.
Lovable Lovable losers, Joseph.
That's right.
Joe,
Right.
the good thing is when I I came across a W flag that someone was actually getting rid of. And I was like, I was going to use it as a litter box liner, right?
Oh, no.
Yeah, what? You'd be happy to have my cats pee on your flag. Anyways, let me stop picking fights with people. And I thought, you know what? No, because Joseph Ivan always has stuff in the background. So I was like, I'll give it to Ivan. But here's the thing: it's a W, so you can go from win to worse and still fly it.
Wait up. Wait up.
You can still fly the W. It just stands for worse.
You spit on our flag?
Matter of fact,
I should be our country.
I should be evil. I should take it's just like the big W on the flag. I should have had somebody embroidered ORSE next to it, and then I should have sent it to Ivan.
Oh no, that's cold-blooded. That's cold-blooded. That's okay.
That's okay.
We still love y'all though.
Now don't even try to butter up. There's no room in the end.
Yeah, Ivan.
All the anxiety, anger.
Yeah, Maya is a little fiery. She's fired up this morning.
Yeah, it was a workout. It happens.
It's Christmas. I'm gonna lay back a little bit.
Okay. You took that well.
The next top of the morning topic. Moving on, the Bears travel to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. Is this a trap game for the Bears, or does Jacksonville even play any regular starters? Because I heard they had an ad in the Reader for some semi-pro football players to play on Sunday.
Whoa!
I'm kidding. I'm being facetious.
Of course he is. No,
because right now they have the number one pick. They have once the New York Jets lost, or they won. Excuse me, the other day, last week. Jacksonville had the tiebreaker thanks to the strength of schedule, so they have the number one pick. So, they are not trying to play the Bears or win at all, which is good for the Bears, but they are not trying to do that and do the Bears. So here's the issue. Do you sit, Khalil Mack has been hurt. Do you sit a Khalil Mack this week in hopes so you can get him back for Green Bay, who when you play next week, they might not be playing for anything because they may have clinched the NFC, or I should say home field to the NFC playoffs, and they may not want to start playing players as well. But do you sit a Khalil Mack?
I mean, obviously, if he's injured, if he needs the time, you sit him.
No, he's hurt. He's hurt right now.
Right.
Heal up.
I think but I think for them as a team, I think they're amped right now. I think there's a shift, and this is interesting because I went in with this on Monday with Jason Palmer on the What's Up Cuz show. And Joe, you were there too when we talked about it. I said, look, everyone knows I'm not Team Mitch, but I have enough respect to say we always said we knew he wasn't getting what he needed to play his type of game. And now that he's getting it, Bill Lazor is making Nagy look stupid. And I want you to know, yes, I think somebody made a comment like Nagy said something to Mitch. I'm like, you need to sit. I'd look at it. If I was Mitch, I'd be like,
sit your ass down. I'm listening to him and him only.
and the thing is, you look at this situation. Yes, yes, you are. Your ego is too big. You were never proven as a head coach, and he never should have been given the reins this season again. This is why heads need to roll. Pace needs to go. Nagy needs to go. You might want to give Bill Lazor the job. I don't know. I'll think about it.
Laser beams.
But here's the thing about it: isn't just Mitch you're seeing improved play. Montgomery is there. How the hell do you take people off the practice squad that's been here this long that had the ability to do what they're doing? I was like, talk about not knowing the talent you have on this team. So this is a game. If we're talking about the Bears are still in it, so they need to win. It doesn't matter what Jacksonville does. I'd have Trevor Lawrence stars in my eyes too. I feel bad for Trevor Lawrence because that's the last place I'd ever want to go. So regardless of what they do, the Bears need to keep getting better. Now, I don't see them because right now though, there's a lot of teams right now that are falling apart and not playing well. This is going to be one of those weird seasons again. And then, in the NFL is one game and you move forward or you're done.
Yep. No series. One game is it.
So no series for the fight. You come and you do your dog fight and that's it. So my thing is, they could easily go deeper in the playoffs than expected. Because look at this last week. Look at the Steelers. I was like, wow, you finally lose one game and now the wheels come off the bus. But the Bills, who I've always talked about, are playing at a high level. The Rams are struggling. So, I mean, you have a lot of question marks all around the NFL. And the crazy thing is these question marks are great for the Bears. So you play your people. And if they feel like they can sit, let's say the game is on cruise control and they can take Mac out, then do it. But be consistent with, they've been playing at least 3 quarters of football, if you've noticed. 3.5. 3.5.
Yeah, they've made a lot of progress. Like I said, kudos to that offensive line, who's done an amazing job protecting Mitch Trubisky. And then kudos to Bill Lazor, who actually listened to Mitch Trubisky after all the other coaches ignored him. So the thing is this, at the end of the day, we shouldn't be in this situation in the first place. Like we're forced to talk about this, and unfortunately it can end on a bad note. Like I'm not saying that they will make the playoffs. I'm not saying that they won't make the playoffs. I'm just saying that just be prepared, if we don't make it. You know what I mean? And don't feel depressed. Don't feel sad, because we know who the blame is at the end of the day.
We know who. I agree. We know who needs to be fired. The question comes back to Mitch, and Jason was like, no, I don't need to see anything else. I'm like, that's interesting because you're finally seeing what you think they drafted him for. I said, and because they drafted him so high, I say you give him another year. It doesn't mean you're still not looking for another quarterback. Right. I'm not saying, but you need to drive some linemen too. Maybe. I don't know. They might have what they need and they just didn't know it. I said, but you don't invest this much in Mitch and he finally starts playing good and you deal him someplace else. Maybe he's like a Josh Allen. Maybe he's not. I don't know. I'm still not convinced he's awesome, but he's playing at a level that's much better than we've ever seen him play before.
Consistently.
I mean,
because his game against Tampa was good. His game against Dallas last year was good, but consistently over the stretch that he's had right now, this is easily the best that we've ever seen him play. And here's the crazy part is like, so now if they put up 30 points again, how many times would we say that the Bears put up 30 points by themselves, not with help by the defense, by the offense, by themselves?
That was the thing. The points they're putting up, and we're not talking about field goals or the defense, legitimately the offense, spreading the ball out. And the thing is, all of a sudden, Miller can hold on to a ball. Robinson, Mooney, Kmet. You had all these pieces that were always there. But the thing about Mitch that really surprises me,
Turner Cats.
Yep. They're over there messing with Grogu is what the problem is. You know who Grogu is, right? From The Mandalorian.
Yeah, little Yoda. But it's not Yoda, but it's little Yoda, everyone calls it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a Grogu, so shut up.
I just knew you would. It's just a given.
I do have one. But what's interesting about it is I'm watching him. His mechanics
are better.
Like natural. He every now and then I can tell he thinks about not running when he should, but I think he's got to clear that out of his mind. His accuracy. That's the other thing. I was like, I don't know what he did in the time that he sat. I have no idea. I don't know if he met with somebody, he worked out with somebody, but clearly just his mechanics are better.
Yeah, you know what? Sometimes that's what you need, a good kick in the ass or a good benching, and that'll do it for you. Well, listen, we got to take a break. Joseph, thank you, Papa. We will see you on Monday as we're off on Friday. So we will see you on Monday. Merry Christmas, my friend. Make sure the little man has a wonderful Christmas, and you and the wife as well. Mm-hmm. All right, we will see you.
I hope Maggie can keep his job to at least the end of the season. So let me just put that out there, because I don't want anybody getting fired over the holidays.
No, he won't. The Bears aren't that cutthroat.
And they're not. And he's still going to get paid the end of his whole contract. That's guaranteed. So I ain't too worried if he gets fired today. he's still getting his millions of dollars for the next 2 seasons. So I ain't worried about it.
So Merry Christmas. All right.
All right. All right. Listen, we got to take a quick break, and on the other side of the break, we're going to have more Bears talk with our guy Eric Lambert from Sports Mockery, and we have some questions, a lot of questions for him. So you're going to want to stay tuned. So keep it locked right here, Shawn and Maya on SportsZone Chicago.
Hi, this is George Iceman Gervin. I listen to Shawn and Maya in the morning.
BoomerNaturals.com presents the Sports Flash on 1330 and 95.9 The Zone. The NBA season getting underway tonight. The Bulls at home against the Atlanta Hawks. 7 o'clock Central tip-off at United Center. First of 3 straight at home for the Bulls to open the season. They'll host the Pacers on Saturday night and Golden State on Sunday before heading out on the road. Tuesday night at Washington. New Year's Eve against the Wizards in D.C. Then New Year's Day at Milwaukee before returning home against the Mavericks on Sunday, January 3rd. The Bears looking to make it 3 straight wins when they visit Jacksonville this Sunday. Noon Central kickoff. They'll wrap up their regular season at home on the 3rd of January against the Packers. On Tuesday, the Bears activated wide receiver DeAndre Carter from the COVID-19 list and signed running back Spencer Ware to the practice squad. This update brought to you by the Score app. Download the free Score app today. It's one of the most popular sports apps in North America. Chuck Sanders, that's the Sports Flash, 1330 95.9 The Zone.
Listening to this Allstate commercial about savings might be the hardest thing about getting those savings. Save for simply becoming an Allstate customer. Save more for adding DriveWise. And save even more for driving safely. Visit allstate.com or contact your local agent for a quote today. Allstate. Minimum effort, maximum reward.
Not available in every state. New customer savings based on early signing discount. DriveWise is an optional feature. Savings vary based on how you buy. Subject to terms and conditions. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
There's an underdog story happening today in America. Small businesses are fighting to make a comeback, but in the moment they have the least, they're giving the most. They're rallying communities and neighborhoods, yet asking for little in return. Well, it's time we gave back. Small Unites is making it simple for everyone to take action and support the small businesses that unite us all. Find out how you can donate, shop, and share today at smallunites.org.
Let's be there for them.
Welcome back to Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago. Man, we had an interesting conversation right before the break talking Bears, and we're going to continue that conversation with our next guest, guys. He covers the Bears for Sports Mockery. You can find him on Twitter at Eric Lambert1. Guys, let's bring him on. Our good buddy, good friend of the program, Eric Lambert. Eric, what's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing good, guys. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you for asking. Mighty fine. Thank you for asking.
Yes, thank you.
So you were in the green room and you heard our conversation about Mitch and about Laser. Give me your thoughts, because I come to the conclusion, if there's a way that we can extract Matt Nagy and keep Laser and Pagano as the coordinators, and maybe move like a DiFilippo to head coach or put someone else on, I'd be okay with it. Is that possible? Because this is the best we've seen Mitch play consistently. Maya and I had just mentioned this earlier before the break. Consistently, this is the best we've ever seen Mitch Trubisky play.
Well, anything is always possible with coaching staff configuration, and promoting DiFilippo would probably be the best way in order to maintain coaching stability in that format. But if you're going to bring in somebody completely new, they're going to probably want their own staff. So, the only way that can happen is if you do promote somebody. So, but honestly, you have to give Nagy credit, because despite all the problems he created for Mitch with his constant issues with play calling, personnel usage, all that stuff, he did, at the end of the day, take himself out of the equation and gave the sheet to Bill Lazor and said, fix it. And from what we've seen, Lazor has fixed it.
That's not a good thing. And I said that as well, because I said I wanted Nagy gone for a long time. I wanted Matt Nagy gone. I just think that it's too much from his lying to us, from his all kinds of, we're taking his presence at pressers just wasn't one that I was really, his misuses of personnel. So it's just a question. It's just a thought. Imagine had he used Jordan Howard this way. Imagine if he used Jordan Howard this way. There's a whole bunch. The season, the 2000, what was it? 17, Mitch's rookie year. If he uses Jordan Howard the same way that he's using Montgomery now, this is a whole different Bears team, but he chose not to use Jordan Howard. And so for me, I knew that was my first red flag. I'm like, this dude's, I'm not a big fan of his. Does he get to keep his job if they get to the playoffs and win a game in the playoffs?
Yes. I mean, it's really pretty much cut and dry like that. If you get to 9-7 and you make the playoffs and even win a playoff game, you really can't find any excuse to fire the guy if you're the McCaskey family, because he'll still have a winning record as a head coach. The offense will have come around, and he still has 2 years left on his contract. So you throw all of that together, and you have to assume Matt Nagy will at least be back for 2021 and perhaps beyond if, that trend continues.
And actually, I agree with you on that. I feel like they'll feel, okay, so you took away a portion of his job that he couldn't do, which was call plays, and you let Laser actually do his job. So now Nagy just has to go through the process and manage. So I kind of agree with you that why fire somebody and still have to pay them if you have something that's working? So my question would be, though, does Pace get to keep his job?
That's a better question, because he only has 1 year left on his contract. So that creates a bit of a lame duck situation going into 2021. And do you really want this guy who's already missed on a number of quarterback decisions and other offensive decisions to try and, rebuild this offense into something respectable, despite how well they've played recently? They've been playing some cupcake defenses. So you really have to take that into context. So, he's done some good work in the past. He built a good defense, and it's really difficult to say. But from everything I've heard is both could be back. But right now, it's more likely that Nagy's back, and they might be searching for a new GM next year, depending on how they finish.
It would make sense to me, despite the fact that I think they both need to go. But there's no reason to try to change this midstream. If they win, they make the playoffs. You say, okay, Pace really only has 1 more year. You may have some pieces in place that work. You may say COVID plays into this, so to speak. They might just let it play out, give him a year, let Nagy stay, because if you're going to get a new GM, then you want him to have the ability to put his own coaching staff in place. So pulling out Pace means, are you going to ask your new GM to have to stay pat with what you have, which I don't think is fair. So I'm like, at this point, if they start winning and it works, then let them play off that year. If you get rid of Pace, okay, then maybe you pay to get rid of Nagy for a year, and you clean house and go get who you want, opposed to trying to say, oh, well, keep these people because they're here now. I don't know. It just seems like it would be the easier thing to do.
This is something the Bears have done in the past. You have to remember, they brought in Jerry Angelo when Dick Duran was still the head coach, and he had to, stick with him for a couple of years. And then with Lovie Smith, Phil Emery had to stick with him for a year before both those guys ended up going and getting their own head coaches. So the Bears have done this scenario before. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if they ended up moving on from Pace and ask the next GM to at least evaluate Nagy for a year and then make a decision in 2022 whether or not he's the guy. If he is, fine. If not, go get your own head coach, something like that. The other scenario in play would be if they really do like Nagy and really feel he can be the long-term guy, they would probably end up going and getting a GM who has connections to him. Somebody, he worked with maybe in Philadelphia or Kansas City. That would be another scenario that's potentially in play.
Oh God, I hope that doesn't happen.
Guys, we're joined by Eric Lambert from Sports Mockery, talking Bears football right here on Shawn and Maya on SportsZone Chicago. So, Mitch has been playing very well, but it's not just because of Mitch. It's because of this running game. And you know what? You see the comment from Armando Lara Jr. Talking about he likes your article on Alex Bars. What type of conundrum are they in now? Because this running game is none like we've seen in the last couple of years. And now that you have Sam Mustipher at center, and you have Whitehead at guard, you have Alex Bars at guard, and that's your run game. Okay, that's your inside run game, and that's where they've been destroying people left and right the last few weeks. What kind of conundrum are they in once James Daniels comes back? Because James Daniels was one hell of a guard when he was, taking on Aaron Donald, handling him. Now you have a surplus of guards, because I don't think you're moving anybody. Sam Mustipher is moving that spot at all. He's really taking he's lock, stock, and two barrels on that freaking center position. He is doing I've heard his name called maybe twice this whole time for something messed up. And it's going to happen. It happens to everybody, but only twice, and you're an undrafted free agent. What kind of conundrum are they in now with this? Seems like maybe a first world problem having too many good offensive linemen?
Oh, it's definitely a good kind of problem to have because they'll be able to retain Bars next year for dirt cheap. So he should be around next year, which is a good thing. So at the very least, you've got yourself a high quality backup. That's a great thing. I think James Daniels will probably end up returning to left guard, which is where he belongs. He's looked close to a Pro Bowl level before he got hurt, unfortunately. So the question becomes, what do you do with Whitehair? Do you move him to right guard and then just take Bars out of the equation and make him the primary backup, or do you even consider maybe moving Bars to right tackle because he's played tackle before in the past? He did at Notre Dame, and he's proven he's capable of doing it. And with Bobby Massey, his contract's becoming a bit inflated with his age, and also now he's been hurt for a long time, so they might move on from him. Jermaine Ifedi's going to be a free agent as well. So maybe you just slide Bars over to right tackle, and then boom, you've got all guys on the field. And then just sort of use the draft to improve the depth and maybe provide some competition. So, there are a lot of options in play as to what they can do. At the very least, though, you can move Whitehair to right guard, and you've got a great backup for either left guard or right guard with Bars.
This is fun. This is fun when we're arguing about because we have too many linemen. We have guys, we're trying to find a spot for good linemen. This is something that we haven't had here in Chicago for a long time, and I'm excited about it. So let's stick it with the run game. David Montgomery looks like a man possessed. This is what he's been asking for, not publicly because he's just too quiet, but this is as a former running back. I know this is what he's been asking for. Just give me a hole. Just give me not 18 inches like Gale Sayers needed, but just give me solid, clean holes where I can get to the second and third level. Because once he gets to the second and third level, he doesn't go down on first contact. If you go low, he steps over you. If you want to go high, he protects the ball. He lowers his shoulder, and he gets a lot of yards after contact. This kid is really showing that he was one of Ryan Pace's, as many bad picks as Ryan Pace has had, he's one of Ryan Pace's better picks.
He's a stud. And, you even saw that during his rookie season when he was given proper opportunities. He could wear defenses out. He's that kind of runner. He's relentless. He's strong, and he refuses to go down. And, when those types of backs you need to feed because he's not one of those home run types, even though he had an 80-yard run recently. I understand that, but he's never been that type of runner. He's a guy who is going to wear you down over the course of the game and then just basically run over you in the fourth quarter because he's just a machine. And the Bears have finally figured out that maybe we should feed this machine. And when they do that, it just makes life easier for Mitch because he can use play action, he can use bootlegs, it takes the pressure off of him because the focus is on Montgomery, focus is on stopping Montgomery. When defenses are forced to do that, Mitch doesn't have to worry about being the focal point. And when he does that, he just seems to play with more confidence. It was that way, for the most part in 2018 when they were running Jordan Howard before, Matt Nagy got, arrogant with his offense and wanting it to run it his way. So, it seems like they've gotten back to that 2018 mentality. Let's run it with our guy, not Howard, but this time Montgomery, and then just let Mitch feed off of that, and it's working.
What's interesting is I feel like, now, mind you, we're playing a lot of teams that are not necessarily the greatest, like 500 or less than 500 teams. So it's good for them because it's almost like practice. But yet, you want to see Green Bay might be the one game left on the schedule that's going to be challenging, and it depends on what's going on with them at the time. So what I feel, though, is I feel like there's kind of been this strange shift in what was the strength of the team where the offense is finally moving, playing at least 3.5, sometimes 4 quarters of football and scoring more than 20 points. And yet now the defense seems a bit opposite, like they're struggling and giving up a bit more. What's your thoughts about the defense? And if they're even thinking about going deeper into the season, is this defense going to be able to hold up, so to speak?
Well, the defense, is highly paid. So that, the high expectations come with that. We know this, they're a veteran defense filled with Pro Bowl caliber players. So you expect more from them. You have to understand they've been on the field a long time for most of the season. They're probably worn out. They're banged up as well. They're missing some key guys. So, they were playing a good offense last week in Minnesota. They have a lot of weapons. So, holding something like that down when you're banged up is tough. So you can, give them a little leeway on that. They performed well against Houston. So, and Houston actually, performed pretty well in weeks leading up to that, despite their offensive deficiencies. So the defense is still capable of playing well. They've got a good pass rush. They can stop the run against most teams that don't have an elite running back. So I don't think they're going to be at an elite level the rest of the way, but I do think they're still capable of playing some decent football, provided they can get a couple of guys back healthy.
Okay.
So here's the situation for the Bears. They got to win out, and they need Arizona to lose. Arizona has to face the LA Rams team the last week of the season, who just got embarrassed by the Jets, who literally shot themselves in the foot for the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. But that's a whole nother issue. I think the Rams are going to be able to do that to them because they're playing in LA. Give me your thoughts on, can this defense hold up against the Green Bay Packers? Because Green Bay might not be playing for anything. If they win this week, I believe, then they clinch home field. Okay, so if you clinch home field, God forbid, Devontae Adams or Aaron Rodgers, A-Rod gets hurt in a meaningless game against the Bears because you want to win a rivalry game when you've already clinched home field advantage through the playoffs, and the Super Bowl, the route to the Super Bowl from the NFC goes through Lambeau. Can the Bears take advantage of that and get to the playoffs and maybe even win a game because of the situation that might happen? Because Jacksonville's not losing. I mean, I'm telling you, they had. I made a joke. They had an ad for semi-pro players to come out for practice because they damn sure ain't losing to the Bears. Not when you have Trevor Lawrence in your literally in your possession. You just got to lose out. So they're going to be nothing, and the Packers may not play anything, play anybody. Your thoughts on those last two games for the Bears getting to the playoffs and maybe winning a game?
I believe the Bears are going to beat Jacksonville just because it's a better matchup for the Bears. They match up well. Jacksonville's run defense is awful. And if they continue to do what they've done with Montgomery, they're going to run right over them. And all they have to do is make sure Gardner Minshew doesn't beat them. And, he's not exactly the most mobile guy in the world. So I think he's going to be under assault by that pass rush. So if they play like they did last week against Minnesota, they're going to win that game. So I'm not too concerned about that. I get it. What just happened with the Jets and the Rams, you always have to be careful of trap games, especially, with the Packers lingering there, right afterwards. So there is that threat. I understand that, but I still think the Bears are going to win. Now, Green Bay, I think they're going to lock up home field. Mm-hmm. And the question becomes, will they rest their starters? It's an interesting question, but because you have to remember back in 2010, when the Bears and Packers faced each other in the season finale, the Bears could have, rested their own starters because they didn't really have anything to play for, but they played their starters anyway and ended up being a competitive game. So I'm wondering if, Green Bay is going to do the same thing out of the interest of competition and, maybe wanting to stick it to the Bears one more time before going into the playoffs. So there's always that threat, but at the same time, their roster is a little top heavy, with Rodgers, Adams, and if you lose any one of those guys, you're immediately in trouble. So if I were Matt LaFleur, you have to consider, sitting everybody, being cautious, getting everybody healthy for the stretch run when you're going to run for a Super Bowl, because you can't risk losing Aaron Rodgers, because if he goes down,
it's over. Game that match, it's over.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think they'll end up, resting guys if they lock up home field this week. So that would be a huge benefit to the Bears because they're playing with so much confidence right now. And if they roll into Soldier Field facing a Green Bay team that's really not playing anybody, I think they're going to win that game and probably get themselves into the playoffs.
Wow. And you know what? It's if they do get to the playoffs, first of all, it's an amazing thing after that losing streak, 6-game losing streak that we had. Even though we were 5-1 and there was a high 80s or low 90% chance of us making the playoffs at that point, and then we decided to tank, and then we still were able to turn around and get in. Talk to me about this defense, though. You mentioned they might be tired, but there's a lot of things that I'm seeing that really don't jive with me. I'm talking like Eddie Jackson, his Olay. I'm talking. Danny Trevathan, a little slower. He's still making plays, don't get me wrong, but he looks like Father Time is starting to catch up to him. And the last question, the biggest thing is, why the hell did Roquan Smith, how did he not make the Pro Bowl?
Well, last question first is, I have no answer for the Roquan thing. I honest to God don't. I mean, he's been phenomenal all year long. He's close to the league lead in tackles. He has 4 sacks. He's been making plays all over the field. He's playing on one of the better defenses in the league in a high-profile city. I mean, how did he not make the Pro Bowl at least? And he should be in the conversation for All-Pro as well. So I really don't have an answer on the Smith question because he should absolutely be in the Pro Bowl, especially considering who actually made it, and Bobby Wagner and Fred Warner. The stats for Smith were better than both of them. So, you really can't answer that. Now, in regards to Eddie Jackson, he's the biggest confusing thing for me this year. I have no idea why he hasn't been able to make more plays all season. It just seems to me like he's in his own head right now. He's not playing with his usual swagger and confidence. He's thinking too much. And, that's led to him being a tick late on a lot of these, turnover opportunities that he's had. So, it just seems like he's playing a little slower than he's used to right now because he's thinking too much. But I do think, given a little more time, it seems like all he needs is that one interception to just sort of get himself going, just to get himself out of his own head. And I think, it's coming eventually. It's just a question of when. And in regards to Trevathan, this was the risk the Bears made when they, extended him, because they knew he was getting to the older side. They were gambling that he would still be able to maintain some of his, trademark speed in exchange for his leadership, his intelligence, all that stuff. And, we're seeing that maybe he's starting to slow down a little earlier than they would have hoped. And it's kind of unfortunate, but at the same time, he's still a valuable piece to the defense, just maybe not the player he was a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, he's Eric Lambert from Sports Mockery. Great stuff, Eric. We appreciate it. Do me a favor, though. Let everyone know where they can find you and your work online.
You can find me at Eric Lambert1 on Twitter. I'm on there all the time.
Great stuff, buddy. We appreciate it.
Anytime, guys.
Hey, Merry Christmas, all right?
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks. Guys, that's Eric Lambert from Sports Mockery, talking Bears. And yeah, there's a lot of moving parts here, Maya.
But they're always
with Ryan Pace.
Here's I'm a person that's willing to be patient to a degree. I want Pace gone. I just doesn't do it for me. I never was Team Nagy in the first place. And the fact that they had a 6-game skid and it took somebody finally understanding that he was not competent enough to be a head coach and to be the offensive coordinator. And the people who got fired last year, so he could, they should have never lost their jobs. But then again, Bill Lazor might not be here if that was the case. You know what I mean?
True. Very true.
So that shift, believe it or not, might be the thing that has gotten them to where they are. So you know how they are, the McCaskies, in regards to they're overly faithful. I just don't think Pace is the right fit. I think I'm gonna have Louis Riddick on the brain just because he's smart, he's aggressive, but they'll have to let him do his job. But that's what to me is long overdue with the Bears, letting someone do their job. So at the end of the day, I mean, I was never Team Mitch, but I've seen such a change and I've seen a step forward consistently, like you said, game after game after game, not play one good game and then regress back to looking like you did before. And because of that, and because they gave up so much to get him, give the kid another year, but still be looking for another quarterback, because you're not going to get a good quarterback out the draft. Let's be honest.
Now that you're winning, no. Now that you're winning, no.
I mean, you're not. I mean, that's already been that's done. You don't. I mean, free agency. You got to figure out what's out there. We know. I mean, I don't know. They have so many question marks, and this is what happens when you're mediocre, and they're mediocre. But yet mediocrity can keep you in it, because this is the kind of year it's been. So I think they're going to have some tough decisions, and I have a sinking suspicion they're going to stay pat, just because if they win or make the playoffs, it'll all get chalked up to COVID.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think that's a good thing for Mitch. I think he'll have a level of comfort that he hasn't had, because Matt was always pushing him. Matt was not dissing him, but kind of throw him under the bus. Like, hey,
he did. He threw him under the bus.
Yeah, I guess he's like, hey, I need, and not something. He's like, well, I need him to understand coverages, which tells you he doesn't understand coverages. All he needs to say is, I need Mitch to get better and keep improving like he's been doing, and we're okay. But when he said he went that route, I think that was unnecessary. But to have Mitch come in relaxed, comfortable, and the biggest issue that we really haven't talked is Allen Robinson. does he stay now? Because now this thing is moving. This offense is moving in a situation in a way that it hasn't moved since he's been here. And now that he's at the end of his deal at the end of this year. Now does he come back? Does he want to come back and stay here? Do the Bears have enough money? Because remember, the salary cap is going to be lower next year due to no fans in attendance and the lack of revenue gained from that. That's a huge part in Mitch's development.
Okay, but at the same time, I agree. It'd be nice to have him back. But if the rest of the season continues with these other relationships developing the way they have, and Mooney and Miller playing better and Kmet, the question then becomes, is it necessary to keep him? Because now you're seeing the ball get spread out across the field to different, different people for Mitch to connect with. So yes, I'd like to have Robinson back, but if it turns into a sticking point, it isn't like he has played at that level that makes me say he must come back. I just don't feel that way. So it depends on how he feels about if they can make a deal that works out for him. I mean, the team is finally playing at a level. And now, mind you, this is against not so great teams. You want to really see this in action against real competition, because that's when you really get to kind of say, here's where we are. This is what was good. I need to see Mitch against some better defenses to see how he really performs, because so far he's been comfortable. He hasn't been challenged, even though Minnesota's defense is a good defense. Young, but good.
Rookies, yeah, really young.
Young, but they're going to be, give it a season or two, and they're going to be really good. Not like John Randall good, but good. But I want to see Mitch challenged against a really good defense. And I want to see all the positive things I've seen, because that's part of the whole maturation process is, okay, you've been able to really get a better understanding of Lazor's playbook. But the key thing when it's all said and done, though, is the offensive line is giving him time. And it's crazy to me that we had these people this whole time and didn't know we had these people the whole time.
The one guy who did it all was Sam Mustipher, because once you put him in there, now you can move Whitehair back to his guard position. You had Alex Bars there from before, and it's crazy how James was hurt. James was hurt at that point.
Right, but I'm saying, it's like
funny how look at this. You got Sam Mustipher and you got Alex Bars, so you got two guys from Notre Dame. And you're like, okay, well, maybe you should go and see with the guy who coached them into being these really good, decent players. Let's go get him. Oh, you had him, and you fired him, and using him as a fall guy. That's just so hilarious to me.
It is. Okay. No, but anyways, I'll get past the Notre Dame thing. They're good. They're good. So respectfully, no, they're good. Notre Dame's good. I mean, you know how I feel about it, but I have to respect their program. The program is still good. So I'm not going to sit there and knock it. I'm not. I didn't ask for your 2 cents. That being said, the fact I just looked at this line and I'm like, how the hell did this happen? All of a sudden, just overnight.
Yeah, so literally.
So for Mitch, this is another part that was important for him, because now he has time. He's not under duress. But at the same time, I also want to see this O-line. I want everyone to be challenged a little bit to see where this goes. So, I mean, it's positive. It's good. I say they don't make any sweeping changes, especially with the salary cap. Robbins will be the one thing they'll have to figure out. And hopefully he'll say, okay, this is what I came here for,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then go from there. But I'm not sold that. I don't look at the Bears and say all of a sudden they're dominant, because they're not. They're just playing at a higher level than we've seen for the games that they lost and looked absolutely awful.
Yeah, they're playing at a higher level. And I think, isn't it amazing if you had said at the end of the season that, the offense would look really, really good and smooth and fluid, and the defense would be having problems, you would have been blaspheming. You'd be blaspheming and probably would have got beat up in Chicago. But that's the way the situation is now. The offense is moving, scoring, mid high 20s, even 30 points a game the last 3 or 4 games in a row. And the defense is the one that's been giving up yards and points.
And the other piece of it that, like I said, like it's weird. Like we're having a shift in who is doing better.
Bizarro world.
It is. It's like, but trust me, the defense is like, yes, can we have a shift so we're not on the field so much? And that's advantageous for them. Like, so if we can start playing back at a high level and give you better field position, this is actually now an offense that might be able to do something with it. Opposed to, though it's funny, it's almost the same defense or offense, but it is what it is. But the other thing about what I'm seeing week to week is that you're right. They're really playing 4 quarters. I mean, it may be kind of short. Like I know they come out of halftime and it's a little slower. and then it gets back going again. So it's good to see like then you're not just scoring in the first half and then you come out the second half and can't do anything. So it's like you're seeing a lot of things have changed for them with Bill Lazor taking over the reins. And I'm gonna keep screaming it because Nagy I never agreed with it. I was like, you guys, he was never really proven when he got to Chicago. I didn't want him to have the job. And we thought this guy who was an offensive coordinator, who, by the way, really wasn't calling most of the season, and he got blown out when he really did he had a couple wins and got blown out in that playoff game for the Chiefs. I said, what made them think that he really had the ability? It was Andy Reid that was calling most of the plays that won, that season for them. So I was like, we gave a green coach way too much responsibility. And when it was obvious that he couldn't maintain it, everybody's ego was too big to take it away. Like, well, no, just let him keep it. And like, and Nagy has to know everyone's like, you never should have been doing that. And he should be embarrassed. And yes, I think idiot's a strong word. It's not fair. You were incompetent. You weren't equipped to be a head coach calling the plays. So no one thinks you're an idiot. You just didn't have you were incompetent. You couldn't pull that off. It is what it is.
We got to take a quick break, and on the other side of the break, we have more sports conversations. So don't go anywhere, folks. Keep it locked right here. Shawn and Maya on SportsZone Chicago.
Hey, this is Gary Payton, and we listen to Shawn and Maya in the morning. Do that.
BoomerNaturals.com presents the Sports Flash on 1330 and 95.9 The Zone. The NBA season getting underway tonight. The Bulls at home against the Atlanta Hawks. 7 o'clock Central tip-off at United Center. First of 3 straight at home for the Bulls to open the season. They'll host the Pacers on Saturday night and Golden State on Sunday before heading out on the road. Tuesday night at Washington. New Year's Eve against the Wizards in D.C. Then New Year's Day at Milwaukee before returning home against the Mavericks on Sunday, January 3rd. The Bears looking to make it 3 straight wins when they visit Jacksonville this Sunday. Noon Central kickoff. They'll wrap up their regular season at home on the 3rd of January against the Packers. On Tuesday, the Bears activated wide receiver DeAndre Carter from the COVID-19 list and signed running back Spencer Ware to the practice squad. This update brought to you by the Score app. Download the free Score app today. It's one of the most popular sports apps in North America. Chuck Sanders, that's the Sports Flash, 1330 95.9 The Zone.
Listening to this Allstate commercial about savings might be the hardest thing about getting those savings. Save for simply becoming an Allstate customer. Save more for adding DriveWise. And save even more for driving safely. Visit Allstate.com or contact your local agent for a quote today. Allstate. Minimum effort, maximum reward.
Not available in every state. New customer savings based on early signing discount. DriveWise is an optional feature. Savings vary based on how you buy. Subject to terms and conditions. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
There's an underdog story happening today in America. Small businesses are fighting to make a comeback, but in the moment they have the least, they're giving the most. They're rallying communities and neighborhoods, yet asking for little in return. Well, it's time we gave back. Small Unites is making it simple for everyone to take action and support the small businesses that unite us all. Find out how you can donate, shop, and share today at smallunites.org.
Be there for us. Let's be there for them.
Welcome back to Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago. We just got off with Eric Lambert from Sports Mockery talking a little Bears. And Maya, I was so happy for them to say, hey, listen, if you're going to lose, go out in a blaze of glory. This way we knew that there would be no question about replacing Nagy and Pace. Now they're winning. Okay, now they're winning. And I do agree with you that the team that they played aren't the strongest, but that's who they have to play. That's who they're scheduled. And it's not as if they said, well, we'll go play this team, we'll go play that team. No, it's who it is. They are the NFL. You do have different tiers, and right now the Bears are being able to take advantage of some of the lower tier defenses that they're scheduled to face. And even with Green Bay, if they're not playing for anything, it's tough to get up for a game when you know you have home field advantage locked up. And that injury thing is another thing in your mind, because if that creeps in, now you're not playing at full speed, and that's when you really get injured. So I like what I'm seeing from Mitch. I'm seeing a Mitch that I haven't seen before. I'm seeing a guy with confidence that I haven't seen. I'm seeing a running game that's able to dominate people that we haven't seen in a long time. This offense is looking really, really good, and it's culminating with points, Maya. When the hell could we say that this is that this offense is putting up points?
Okay, but see, this is like called not trying to reinvent the damn wheel.
Bingo.
Nagy kept trying to make the Bears something that they weren't, which was not Kansas City. You didn't have the same level of talent that you had in Kansas City. You don't have Patrick Mahomes. You could have, but you don't. It could have happened, but it didn't. He kept trying to emulate something that he couldn't and refused to acknowledge the personnel that he had. And it wasn't that the Bears were not talented. Look at Montgomery. I mean, Komet, it's like, you go get this kid. I mean, you're not
use him for 3 weeks.
You're not developing him. And then, when Jimmy Graham kind of finds a groove, you kind of stop using him. You know what I'm saying? It was just so inconsistent. But for the last 3 games, I've seen consistency. And I think everybody is kind of finding the rhythm. But a big part of it was the O-line that was when the injuries started happening. That just made it more complicated. It's interesting. And I'm not saying this to even be funny or to create controversy. If Nick Foles had this O-line, you might have seen more wins. But when he got to the point where he was under duress, he couldn't do it because, granted, he could be a quick release, but it was still an issue for him. You know what I'm saying? Because the pocket was collapsing, like just basically snap ball, pockets collapsing. And he was and he was a guy who didn't have the mobility that Mitch had. But here's what's interesting. Mitch has the mobility, but now he doesn't have to rush. He can actually let plays unfold. He can take his time, and he can still use his feet if he needs to. So it's like about timing with everything. The O-line piece still makes me scratch my head that they had these people the entire time, but didn't really know it, didn't test it. And we all know that O-lines are drafted and developed. When you find an O-lineman in free agency, it's usually because he's about to be put out to pasture, seriously, and his heir apparent has stepped in and is performing, or they're asking for too much money, and the level of play doesn't indicate they should get it. You don't really find really good old linemen in free agency. Like Leno, he should just rot in free agency. He's so awful. He's awful. So, I mean, there's so many question marks. Like, why wasn't this known? Why wasn't this personnel, And my thing is, I guess injury maybe made the call. Like, hey, bring in Bars, bring in so-and-so.
Yeah.
And who would have known this whole time that Mustapher was sitting there and he's great? And I was like, when I saw his name, I was like, who the hell is this?
Who's this?
I was like, who's this Joker? Where'd he come from? Damn. I was like, where did he come from? But, I like the fact that they've gotten an opportunity and they showed you we deserve to be here. So it's a good problem to have. It really is. So,
Phil, the draft doctor, Phil Toshin, and I were talking. And, we had said, we're like, look, if this thing's going south right now, which they're smack dab in the middle of that losing streak, he goes, then play everybody. Then play the scrubs, play the second, third, fourth, fifth, seventh, 10th stringer. Why? Because you don't know what you have.
Exactly.
Find out what the hell you have. So when you go into next year, say, okay, you're dead weight. You couldn't play. You're gone. I'm not going to waste time with you. But if you didn't play them and then you bring them back, you don't know what you have. And the only reason that they got playing time was injury. And that's an indictment on that coaching staff.
Scandal.
And it's unfortunate that had to happen, and to a degree, because my thought is this: like, are they not performing well in practice? Because that's usually what gets you playing time. Are they not performing well in practice, or are you just saying we have our guards, we have Daniels, we have Whitehair, and who was the other guard? Ifedi was the guy at the time. He was the right guard at the time. So we have our guys. So these guys don't get any reps. So we can't see. But what about on the practice set? When they're doing scout team, when they're going against the defense, were they making plays? Were they blocking Khalil Mack? Were they blocking Bilal Nichols? Were they blocking these guys, Akeem Hicks? Were they blocking when they're running scout team? Because if they were, then you better take a look at it. They should have taken a look at them like, oh, he's blocking Bilal pretty well. He's blocking Akeem Hicks pretty nice. He picked up Khalil Mack pretty good. Let me see what he could do for us, on our offensive line, as opposed to just using him as a scout team player. That's again a scathing indictment on this coaching staff.
But isn't everything about the Bears a scathing indictment?
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised I wouldn't be surprised if that's why Harry Hiestand got fired, because maybe he was saying, hey, look, these guys need more time. These guys are good, and and Nagy didn't want to hear it anymore, and he could use him as a fall guy, and boom, yeah, you know what?
And then all of a sudden,
your mouth anymore, boom, you're gone.
I could see that because we know that O-lines are. If you look around the league, some of the best players. We can say this, and it's not the same this season. But the thing that made Dak Prescott what he is, it was his line.
Oh hell yeah!
He had time. He had time back there, so to allow him to not be under duress, to let plays unfold, and like Mitch, I'm not comparing them. I'm just saying, but if he needed to use his feet because whatever, he could do it. But people, what the thing about it is, the O-line is not interesting. It's only interesting when it's underperforming. That's the only time that people care about O-linemen is when your quarterback's getting sacked all the time, can't get plays off, then everybody wants to put you through the ringer. But when you do your job, no one sings your praises because it's just not one of those positions that people care about until it's not working. But it turns out it's one of the most important, positions in the game for people, at least from your offensive side, because when they stand firm, it allows for everything else to happen. They open up those A and B gaps for your running game. It allows your quarterback to be able to have time to let plays unfold. It just so many things orchestrate around them, but they're always looked at like pawns to people. And at this point, we've seen some awful O-lines, whether we go back to, when Cutler was here. I mean, we've seen how when they cannot hold up, how it affects everything. And part of Mitch's success is he's had time. To the point where he thinks about not running. And like last game, he did it a couple times. Like Mitch, you ran like 2 seconds too late because you could have gotten that first down. But I like the fact that you're thinking pass first because you're seeing the field. So I mean, there's so much here. And here's the thing: I don't need them to tank because there is talent there. The question is, what does this all mean next year? That's the problem.
Maya, what do you think about? Because I was asking Shawn before. I have this idea, and I'm not saying it's a good one, but wouldn't it make sense if they were to have kept John Fox for a year, seen how he worked with Mitch, figured out what works for Mitch, and then go get a offensive coordinator or offensive guru or whoever they wanted to go ahead and implement what he wanted after he gained some knowledge of what the hell he was doing? Or how about this? How about you go ahead and you let that guy draft the quarterback?
Okay, so John Fox was never going to be your quarterback guy.
No.
Because offense is not his thing, and everywhere he's ever been, his quarterback has already been ready to go.
But he would have. What my point
but he's open-minded.
He lets established,
yeah, he lets people do their job in that respect. You know what I'm saying? So, but the other thing about Mitch, and people fail to understand this, he wasn't NFL start ready.
No,
he wasn't. He you know what? He could have benefited like Patrick Mahomes sitting behind Alex Smith for a year and seeing the game unfold, making those adjustments. He didn't get that. He was behind Chicken Neck, who wasn't going to teach him anything, aka Mike Glennon, just in case you don't know who Chicken Neck is. And then he got thrown into the fire with underdeveloped skills. And then with and all these different, different coaches and different philosophies. And he wasn't a guy that was ready for that. He was not ready. So what we could partially be saying, and I'm not Mitch, so I'm not saying, I'm not waving the Mitch banner. So don't misunderstand this. But maybe it's taken him all this time to get to this point because he hasn't had a straight path to get there.
Right.
So I don't.
That's like John Fox would be able to establish like a line. What does John Fox do? I mean, he builds, other than the quarterback position, the team gets built. The team gets built correct. You still had Vic Fangio. You had a Jordan Howard, so you had a running game, and you were trying to build a running game, and all of a sudden you switch coaches, and now you're doing something completely different. I just felt like maybe if you were going to find somebody or fire John Fox, maybe fire John Fox after his second year with Mitch Trubisky, just because you have all you have is a project. So why not let the coach with the most experience run the project instead of putting a inexperienced head coach with an inexperienced quarterback?
But you're bringing a guy who doesn't deal with the offensive side of the ball to run a project. So what good is that? John Fox is not an offensive guy; he's a defensive guy. So to have him run and oversee the Mitch project, it is not necessarily a smart thing.
But you give him the experience. He has 2 years. Maya, you're on. You're not even on.
There you go.
There you go.
But the thing about Fox is Fox strikes balance. So I do see what Ivan is saying. He would have been able to have a bit more balance to work out the situation because he's had success with not being the offensive guy. So he probably would be a bit more open-minded and flexible. You know what I'm saying? And the idea that I think, Shawn, you have said it numerous times, go get somebody that's worked with Mitch that made him successful. You know, when he was in college, go find those people that can help Mitch be better at this level. Fox wouldn't have fought you on that. You know what I mean? He would have been like, okay, if this is going to help this kid be better, so be it. I mean, I guess my first question is, did they really believe that Mike Glennon was going to be their full 16-game quarterback? Did they believe that? I never thought that.
No, I didn't. They did, apparently.
So that right there within itself was another scathing indictment of how, for this team that was always trying to make that shift to catch up with the NFL and being an offensive-minded team, first of all, don't deny your identity. When it's all said and done, the Bears are two things: defense and running game. It does not mean that you can't do those other things. But when they brought in Nagy and Pace, it was because they wanted to have this full identity shift. And I was like, but why? Just because you are a good defensive team and just because you like to run the ball, when you run the ball, it helps to make everything else play out. So when they gave those two the keys to the car, this is when everything fell apart, trying to change the total complexion of what the team was without having the proper personnel. Remember, we saw this with the defense. We're now multiple seasons into that shift in the defense, how they wanted to get away from being that cover 2 type defense. You know what I'm saying? They went out and drafted, went into free agency, and it took a couple seasons, but then you saw, okay, now the defense is hitting on all cylinders, and then we lost Fangio.
Yeah,
But,
no, they switched from a 4-3 to a 3-4, and so
right.
You didn't have players, and you had to go get them. You had to sign free agents and all this to make that shift for Vic Fangio, and
And then it's a lot of different. So granted, you have to be patient and say that it takes time, but there were still pieces in this puzzle that were not in the right place. It's like that piece don't go right there. And I'm sorry, Nagy and Pace are a large part of it. I'm willing to be a little bit more patient with Mitch, despite the fact that I'm not Team Mitch, because he is showing me something. Now, here's the thing: when we all look stupid, and I'm willing to look stupid for the sake of if they win. For everybody who sat in that war room and said Mitch's ceiling was better than Mahomes and Watson, and Watson, because they saw something in him. If that turns out to be true, and it just took putting the right person with him, so be it. Don't know that that's going to happen, because it seems like way too lofty of a thing to think, because you've seen what Mahomes and Watson is just in a very he's in a very dysfunctional situation right now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. At this point, 3/4 of that.
He's scared the crap out of me.
At this point, give me 3/4 of that. You know what I'm saying, Maya? Like I don't need. All I need is you to be competent, Mitch. I don't need you to be.
Well, he is. No, you can't ask him for that. He's been competent for the last 4 or 5 games. He's been exactly about everything that we wanted. This is exactly what. And now imagine if this defense was a defense at the beginning of the year. Now where would we be? Mm-hmm. If this had happened earlier, Mitch is playing this consistent, and of course you can have a clunker here or there. Even great quarterbacks have it. But his consistency, if this had been the whole season, we're fighting for the title, NFC North title.
But here's the thing: the issue was not Mitch. I'm still going to say this. No. It wasn't Mitch in this equation. It was Nagy the whole time. And the thing is, this was said last year, that Nagy is the problem. Yep. He's not working to Mitch's strengths. He's not using the running game. Everything we're talking about lay people who don't make millions of dollars said this. Yeah. And yet you taking him right out the mix and doing all the stuff that people were screaming, and then they start winning again, along with all of a sudden this O-line gets tweaked with pieces that you had, and now it's better.
Could he stand in Helfrich have done that, Sean? Could he stand in Helfrich?
Oh, hell yeah. Helfrich. Oh, heck yeah. You look at Oregon. You look at the way Oregon runs their dude. They're a zone read, and they will option everybody. Dude, they'll option. We were watching film one time when we were at Curie, and that's when Helfrich in Oregon was really big, and they optioned the nose guard. They literally optioned the nose guard. It was the quarterback, running back. He hands off to the running back, or he puts it in his belly, and the quarterback watches the nose guard. Does the nose guard collapse, or does the nose guard come at me? Because the nose guard comes at me, I give it to the running back. If the nose guard goes to the running back, then I keep it. I go right up the middle, right where the nose guard came from.
Right.
Imagine that them doing that here. Imagine having a guy who loves running the ball in a Mark Helfrich. He loves passing the ball, but he loves running. He's not afraid, and he's more than happy to run the ball. And had he been able to call plays, yeah, I think this could have happened a lot sooner, but he was just here collecting money because collecting a check because Matt Nagy was his system, his scheme, and his play and him play calling. So literally, Mark Helfrich was here for a year or two and really did nothing.
And everybody knew when they got fired that it wasn't fair.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knew it wasn't fair. It's like, whoa, hold up. So I mean, it's again, it is what it is. It's good to see a shift. I want to see it continue. The Green Bay game to me would be your kind of litmus test, but we don't know what Green Bay is going to do. I mean, we know that they're going to win the division. It is what it is. So the question becomes, if I know Aaron Rodgers, he's going to be like, I'm not sitting. I need to play some of this game. You know what I'm saying? Because if he could stick it to the Bears in some way, shape, or form, because that's that rivalry piece. If the Bears come into this game with it meaning something, because if I'm correct, because that kind of dip off and watch other stuff every now and then, now that other sports are on, because I've been all digging into the NHL stuff with the realignment, which is really interesting, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
We got to start talking about that soon. But isn't it the Bears do they have to win every game now to make sure they're in the playoffs?
They need help too, so they need to win Jacksonville and the Packers, and they also need Arizona to lose one game. If Arizona loses one, then they're out. If Arizona loses both of them, then the Bears doesn't matter. The Bears are in, but they just need one game for Arizona to lose while the Bears handle their business and win out.
So what that comes down to, if Green Bay walks onto the field knowing that the Bears can still be in it, they're going to want them to not be in it. Which means, Aaron Rodgers, he's going to want to stick it to him as much as he can. So I think they come out and play as competitive as they can. You know what I mean? So I think that game is going to be a good game. It's going to mean something. But even if the Bears...
That's a great point. Remember,
I don't think Green Bay is not going to just let the Bears, especially there. This is where the rivalry part plays in. Green Bay would love to be the team to take the wind out of the Bears' sails. Because everyone is saying, there's a shift, there's a turn, they're playing better. And they're going to say, watch me work. Watch me show you what you just saw as a phantom. They're going to want to make you say they're not as good as you think they are because they can't beat us. And if they can't beat us, so hence, they're going to want to embarrass the Bears. They're going to come to play. They're not. I don't think they don't.
In 2010, Maya, the situation was literally reversed. The Bears had won the division. Last game was against the Packers. They let the Packers win. The Packers had to win to get into the playoffs, and I think they rested their starters. It was right after they got Cutler. They rested their starters, and then Green Bay beat them. And they beat the Bears to get into the playoffs. Then they played the Bears in the playoffs and beat the Bears in the playoffs again. So if history serves me well, then they're going to say, hey, listen, let's put them away early if we can, okay? Because at that point you still have to think big picture. At that point, the hell with the rivalry. We're looking at Super Bowl aspirations, and if we have to go through the Bears again, then we'll go through the Bears again. But we can't risk Aaron Rodgers getting hurt because to play in a meaningless game, once you've clinched, it's meaningless. Once you clinched home field advantage through the playoffs, it's meaningless. So now here's where you have to make those tough calls. And if Aaron Rodgers says, I'm playing, and he says, you know what? No, you're not. Go get his helmet. Hey.
Aaron Rodgers is like LeBron James of the NFL. So if he wants to play, he's going to play. Now, he may not play a full game. And what's going to be interesting about that final week, this is so typical Bears fashion. They play Green Bay at noon. And let's say they win that game. Arizona, because they're going to probably win this week because they're playing San Francisco. San Francisco got too many injuries and people out. Arizona should take care of that. But their final game against the Rams. Lots of implications for everybody in there. So the Bears play at noon. If they win, then they have to sit there and watch and hope that the Rams beat the Cardinals, and boom, now you've got a berth into this. So it's a game. I mean, here's the thing. The Bears are about to play. It doesn't matter what Green Bay does. They're going to play lights out because they don't want to lose the opportunity. They'll put themselves in this position, so to speak, because they didn't have to be here. But it is what it is. So I just still say, if Green Bay, I don't think they're going to be as kind of, we're just going to punch your ticket and hope, that, I don't know.
No, but, I think you're right. I mean, because remember, as they just said, the situation was exactly reversed about 10 years ago. And, they needed to win. They won. They met the Bears in the playoffs, and they're like, we're not going to let that happen to us, especially the Bears. It was okay for them to do it to us from a Green Bay's perspective, but they don't want the to come full circle and have it happen again when they could have nipped it in the bud, beat the Bears last game, knocked them out of the playoffs, and that's it. So that's why we're hoping for Arizona to lose 2 games, because if they lose 2 games in the Bears are going to be in the playoffs as long as they beat Jacksonville. But
it ain't happening. They're not going to – it'll be a fluke if they lose to the 49ers. The 49ers, they're bleeding right now. They have injuries. Kittle's out, the quarterback situation. So it's just not – they'd have to, just not show up. So I think – and the Rams, I don't think the Rams are also fighting to keep in it right as well. So they need a win. That's what I'm saying. The last week of the season, there's so many things that fall into place for the playoff picture coming down literally to, the last games.
Yeah, because the Seahawks are right on the Rams' heels.
Mm-hmm.
The Seahawks and the Rams can literally switch places in the next couple of weeks. So I think the Rams – that Rams game's our best bet. I do feel like the Niners could run them down, but they are a little beat up. The Niners is wishful thinking, but I think the Rams game is where we need to go ahead.
I'll tell you what. The reason I say no is because the Eagles were definitely in a better position to beat the Cardinals. Mm-hmm. I just think, obviously if Hurts has a little bit more time at quarterback, and they were missing some key pieces. That's why I'm the 49ers are just equally, maybe more banged up than the Eagles are and missing some key pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think they can't beat the Cardinals, just because of what they're missing.
Right.
I think it just comes down to the Rams, who a team themselves who have kind of fallen a little far from glory. But they have also dealt, Gurley, they've had some changes as well, so to speak. So I hate to say, the last week of football is much watch football. Almost a lot. You got a ton of games that are totally worth watching because of the implications that they have.
Tons of implications and playoff seedings and being in the playoffs or on the outside looking in. So this football season has come down as much as COVID has affected the NFL season. The NFL season is still giving us a whole bunch to be entertained by and a whole bunch to really watch and appreciate. So I'm looking forward to the way this thing ends. I'm liking because when Ken comes on, because I've been a Mitch guy since they drafted him. Okay, this guy's good, but I've also have been true to and stuck by my guns and say I'm not giving him a gold jacket to Canton. I'm saying he's in the middle of the above average quarterbacks. That's his spot, but you need to maximize that. And even when he played poorly, I'm yeah, but there were things. And for people who don't play football or you're well, he sucks in this and this. Yeah, he's sucking doesn't necessarily mean he sucks. He's sucking because of the situation that he's in. When you put him in the right situation, then he can not suck so much. What was Joe Madden's? Try not to suck. Okay. When you put him in a situation that benefits and plays and maximizes his skill set, he doesn't suck. So, and it just took 3.5 years to do that, to get to that point.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with one, he had limited playing time in college. He wasn't coming from the top tier programs. So, it was just a lot to it. For instance, I was all engaged in the Alex Smith stuff that was going on with Washington. I was whoa, Alex Smith. It's all unfortunately his career is now real with injury, because the way he was playing with Washington, I was wow, good stuff. And it's, he's made that from the 49ers to the Chiefs, he gets to Washington. And I'm how you have to look at Mitch. And like I said, I'm still not team Mitch, but I'm glad to see some of this development piece that someone saw that I never saw him play in college. I had no idea what he was. So if this is what they thought they were seeing, that's good. And I think comparatively, what happens if he turns out to be like a Josh Allen, who remember, it was done, washed off, kick him out. Whoa.
Fire him now.
Right. Now the Buffalo Bills is stampeding everybody right about now. Seriously. But by the way, Buffalo always had some serious ass defenses. Seriously. Yeah. But all of a sudden you get Josh Allen, who it just seemed like he was going to be a wash. Baker Mayfield. You were too overhyped, but we all knew it had a lot to do with that Cleveland drama.
Yeah.
And look at what happened when they got rid of the general manager, the head coach, changed some things, added some more pieces. All of a sudden, Baker Mayfield is playing at that level that people thought he should play. I'm not saying that Mitch, by the way, is Baker Mayfield either. I'm not even close to that. But if you put him in that vein of someone like Josh Allen, Tannehill,
just use them the way that their skill set dictates. That's all you got to do.
Who was on the show?
Idea.
Who gave us the conversation? I can't remember because there's always so many amazing people that come on our show. About when you look at the stats, some of the most successful quarterbacks, because right now we're all into sexiness stuff. Oh, they're athletic. I need you to be able to throw the ball accurately. And yes, get your ass out the pocket when necessary. I don't get into I need you to run for touchdown. That doesn't enamor me. I look for what's your mechanics look like? Those key things that are good. Who was on the show and said, if you look at the stats, especially from some of the best quarterbacks in the league and even Hall of Famers, it had nothing to do with athleticism. It was about their accuracy, their pocket presence. And if they had the ability to scramble, that was good. Who said that on the show? I can't even remember. But my thing is, Mitch has developed that part of his game where he's developing that pocket presence that he didn't have. So that alone makes a difference. So I think we have to get past the idea if someone isn't athletic, that makes them better. That's the current trend in the NFL. Everybody wants an athletic quarterback. But what are some of the best Aaron Rodgers is not necessarily athletic. He can run when necessary. He's good. He's serviceable with his legs, so to speak. But it's his accuracy in the pocket, and it's his football IQ. The fact that he can make you do dumb things like be doing substitutions or things like, what I'm saying? He's paying attention to you. Your guy isn't off the field yet, and now it's a penalty, and he gets 5 yards out of it. It's those small nuances that he does that makes the difference. People have to get rid of this whole, I want you to be able to run. Eventually, running quarterbacks can be contained. Look at Michael Vick. And they were talking about Kyler Murray the same way, you do know the way you stop that.
Yeah. Well, listen, we got to take a break because we're going to switch gears and we're going to talk NBA action. The NBA season kicked off last night. And for us, we see my gear. I'll tilt down a little bit. Old school. We're going 1998. 1998, baby. That's what I'm talking about. It actually might be older. Like the 95-96 season. I think this is from that season. That's what I'm talking about. Our Bulls kick off tonight. They host the Atlanta Hawks. And we're going to talk to our guy. He is the senior editor over at CBS, the senior NBA editor. Let me make sure I preface that. Senior NBA editor over at CBS Sports, Michael Bolo. So he's coming up, and we have a lot to talk about with him, especially that blowout game with Wardell that Wardell was in yesterday. So don't go anywhere, folks. Michael Bolden from CBS Sports up next, right here on Shawn and Maya on SportsZone Chicago.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Shawn and Maya in the morning.
BoomerNaturals.com presents the Sports Flash on 1330 and 95.9 The Zone. The NBA season getting underway tonight. The Bulls at home against the Atlanta Hawks. 7 o'clock Central tip-off at United Center. First of 3 straight at home for the Bulls to open the season. They'll host the Pacers on Saturday night and Golden State on Sunday before heading out on the road. Tuesday night at Washington. New Year's Eve against the Wizards in D.C. Then New Year's Day at Milwaukee before returning home against the Mavericks on Sunday, January 3rd. The Bears looking to make it 3 straight wins when they visit Jacksonville this Sunday. Noon Central kickoff. They'll wrap up their regular season at home on the 3rd of January against the Packers. On Tuesday, the Bears activated wide receiver DeAndre Carter from the COVID-19 list and signed running back Spencer Ware to the practice squad. This update brought to you by the Score app. Download the free Score app today. It's one of the most popular sports apps in North America. Chuck Sanders, that's the Sports Flash, 1330 95.9 The Zone.
Listening to this Allstate commercial about savings might be the hardest thing about getting those savings. Save for simply becoming an Allstate customer. Save more for adding DriveWise. And save even more for driving safely. Visit Allstate.com or contact your local agent for a quote today. Allstate. Minimum effort, maximum reward.
Not available in every state. New customer savings based on early signing discount. DriveWise is an optional feature. Savings vary based on how you buy. Subject to terms and conditions. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
There's an underdog story happening today in America. Small businesses are fighting to make a comeback, but in the moment they have the least, they're giving the most. They're rallying communities and neighborhoods, yet asking for little in return. Well, it's time we gave back. Small Unites is making it simple for everyone to take action and support the small businesses that unite us all. Find out how you can donate, shop, and share today at smallunites.org.
Let's be there for them.
Welcome back to Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago. Just got done with a little NFL talk, and we're going to switch gears as the NBA started yesterday. And we want to bring in our guy. Our Bulls don't start until tonight, which I'm excited about. But we want to talk to our guy, see how the NBA kicked off. And then throw a little Bulls in there with them as well, because now we've got we've got basketball people in basketball positions. I know that sounds similar and silly. Like, of course you should, but we never did before. We didn't have it good basketball people before. So I want to see what the national perspective of our Bulls is going to be. Guys, he's the senior NBA editor for CBS Sports. He's been on the show plenty of times. He's a good friend of the program. You can find him on Twitter at MBolandCBS. Guys, let's bring him back. Michael Boland. Michael, what's up, Papa? How are you?
Doing great. How you guys doing today? Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. We're excited, man. We're excited. The NBA is starting.
Feels like it just ended, but we're back.
Feel like it ended a month ago. Yeah.
Yes, it does.
And so the game kicks off yesterday. The Brooklyn Nets versus the Golden State Warriors, and Wardell Steph Curry II just really couldn't handle the firepower of KD and Kyrie. Talk about that, because I mean, obviously, when the schedule was made, they thought it was going to be the Splash Brothers were going to be back until Thompson hurt his Achilles. I think it was. He tore his Achilles. Yeah, that was a man. You talk about a sledgehammer to your chest. Ooh, Charlie. But talk about that game yesterday, and specifically your thoughts on how KD looked.
Yeah, absolutely. Going into that game yesterday, it's basically been over a year now of just this build up for the Nets fans, their franchise. What is this going to look like when Kyrie and KD, I'm still stuck with him being on the Warriors for so long, when they finally team up and we're able to see what this duo is able to produce. And obviously last night, everything we saw out of them, and obviously the limited minutes that they were only asked to play, it pretty much justified why the Nets franchise and their fans feel that they realistically have a shot at competing for a championship. So obviously for them, I think a lot of it, just like every other team this year, and with the condensed schedule and obviously everything else going on in the world, you're going to need a little bit of luck. You're going to need to stay healthy in terms of just a physical. To the physical degree, as well as also with the virus and everything still out there, something like that could change a team's fortunes very quickly. But in terms of what we saw last night from the Nets, KD, Kyrie were fantastic. Karis LeVert gave them a huge lift off the bench, made that second unit really his own, scoring 20 points of his own there off the bench to really help them close things out and only have to play KD and Kyrie limited minutes. But what I saw from them as a first impression, I was very impressed. I thought Steve Nash did what he needed to do, the rest of the coaching staff, to put them in a position to come away not only with the win, but to be in a position where it was a rather comfortable win for them, and they really didn't have to play those pressure minutes down the stretch like we used to see with the Warriors when Kevin Durant and Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson, that iteration, were blowing teams out, and they would routinely not play the fourth quarter, resting themselves up for later on in the season.
So let's move to our Bulls, because let's stay in there in the NBA, and then we'll move to our Bulls in a moment. Talk to me about the situation down in Houston with James Harden. Yeah, I want to be here, and this and that. We know it's all posture, and then he wants to be traded. Then he doesn't show up. Then he shows up. Then he's in a strip club. Then he's got no mask on. What the hell's going on down there in Houston? It's a big cluster mess.
That's a perfect way to describe it, I think. It doesn't seem good. You have to feel for Steven Silas coming in as his first real crack as a head coach, and this is what he walks into. It's tough on them, and excuse me. Obviously them making the deal with the Wizards, sending Westbrook away for John Wall. You have to figure out what Harden and him look like together. Obviously, we saw it in small portion of it in the preseason, but it's, you can't really take much away from those games, in my opinion. So Houston, they want to make a deal. It seems like they're ready to do something here, but it takes two to tango, and obviously they're asking for a lot in return for Harden. So do I think a trade happens at some point? I would lean towards it, but for now, I think Houston just has to kind of see what they have and hope that, whatever they can produce with this roster that's put in place still makes Harden an attractive enough trade option down the line, because, even though teams are balking at offering some players for him, it's interesting. He still has 2 years left on his contract, so it's not like you're paying a king's ransom for a guy who could walk in 8 months. You're going to have him under team control for a little while there. So that part of it's a little interesting to me when you see reports where, the Miami Heat wouldn't be willing to part with Tyler Herro, where the Nuggets wouldn't be willing to part with Porter Jr. in a trade for James Harden, of all people, who's, one of the best offensive players in the league and has been for a long time. So it really kind of makes you wonder what the rest of the league thinks about his value right now. And not only that, but what the rest of the league really thinks Houston could realistically get for him in a trade. Because it sounds like nobody is willing to pay this, ransom of multiple picks and a star young player. And nobody wants to give that up for a guy who clearly doesn't want to be there right now. So looks like the league is going to wait it out, see if that price drops a little bit. And then, ultimately at that point, Houston will have to make a decision.
It's interesting because what you just said is the thing I look at, like, if you're following James Harden's body of work, and there's no doubt about it from an offensive standpoint, he's excellent. But here's the problem. It hasn't equated into a championship for anywhere that he's been with, right, with quality people around him, mm-hmm, with teams that you would look at the roster and say, you should have a ring or two or three, at least two. So if I'm looking back from another organization, I'm like, adding him to the mix with what I have doesn't mean that that's going to put us any closer to getting a championship, because he couldn't do it with Durant and Westbrook. Mm-hmm. He couldn't do it with Westbrook and so on. You know what I'm saying? So I think that puts a big question mark to what really does he bring to your club besides maybe some drama.
I think what's really telling about that, and obviously is, you look at the Sixers, they're rumored to be involved. Daryl Morey was the guy who brought him to Houston. They had a great relationship. They worked well together. They won to an enough of extent where they got to the Western Conference Finals. He doesn't want to give up Ben Simmons for him. Ben Simmons is a guy that a lot of people are not high on because he doesn't. It's not that he can't shoot; he refuses to try to shoot. So if you're looking at maybe one of Harden's biggest supporters in the league is still, well, maybe I don't want to do this. It makes you wonder what the rest of the league thinks too. And I agree with you for that reason, because you're right. He's a great offensive player. He's proven that he's one of the best one-on-one players in the world, but that's only gotten his team so far. So, if you're gonna be giving up that much to acquire a player like that, not only do you want them there, but you got to also look at it. Well, what is this going to do to help us get to a point where we weren't without him?
Guys, we're joined by Michael Bolden. He is the senior NBA editor for CBS Sports. We're talking NBA action right here on Shawn and Maya on SportsZone Chicago. So now let's jump to our bullies. Okay, they cleaned house. They went all the way. Man, new president of basketball operations, new general manager, new head coach, obviously a new staff to go along with this head coach. They brought in 2 point guards in Billy the Kid as their head coach and Mo Cheeks on the staff. And this team looks fun again. Talk to me from a national perspective, your expectations or how the Bulls are viewed now that they've cleaned house, now that there's a new sheriff in town, Arturas Karnisovas, and his deputies, Billy the Kid and Mo Cheeks, running that team. Talk to me how the Bulls are viewed from a national perspective.
Well, I mean, I think it's definitely, if not a complete 180, something very close to it from where we were this time a year ago talking about this team and the direction that they were potentially heading in. Obviously, I think it starts at the top, as you mentioned, with the new front office that came in, the fact that they overhauled that after years of people begging for them to do it and make some sort of changes there. They made wholesale changes. And, not only that, they went out and got a new head coach in Billy Donovan, who's got a track record of taking teams with young players and developing them and really doing more with, what people would think is less than we've seen in different instances in the NBA. I think there's a lot of young talent on this team. I know a lot of people I work with are extremely high on Patrick Williams, the rookie that Chicago took in the lottery. And, they think that he's going to be a very good player. And so far from what we've seen, obviously it's the preseason and it's only short spurts of what he's probably going to be capable of doing, but he's put up some impressive performances so far. So, if you look at that, if you can become a player with what you really have there in Kobe White, Lauri Markkanen, Zach LaVine, and Wendell Carter, that's a nice five that they could, continue to build around and kind of, see if that core can be what takes them the next step. But right now, I don't see why they wouldn't be a team that's, competing for one of those, I get 10 spots now in the Eastern Conference where you kind of put yourself in the position to make the playoffs, as long as they stay healthy and buy into what you'd assume Billy Donovan's going to be preaching there. They should have more than enough talent to compete for one of those spots, I would think.
No, I agree with that. I just think just watching them in the preseason, Michael, I felt like they just played better. And Patrick Williams, for everyone who didn't get to really get as familiar with him as they should have because of how the NCAA season ended, trust me, Florida was stacked.
Yeah.
And they would have been really deep into March Madness. People were like, well, he wasn't a starter. He was a sixth man. I'm like, you don't know how stacked Florida was. The fact that he was a freshman, and he was a sixth man, meant there was no spot to put him because everybody else was equally just that good.
Well, I can tell you on draft night, those of us, some of my colleagues who don't follow college basketball as closely, when it was starting to come in that the Bulls are going to take Patrick Williams, I believe it was the 4th pick. So I'm like, who the hell is Patrick Williams? But since then, those people, you get to watch him play, and as you were saying, they've come around because the kid looks like he fits the real deal.
He does. He has a natural basketball IQ. I mean, he doesn't, even though he's a rookie, he only had like that 1 year. He doesn't play like that, which is amazing to me. So good addition. Do you feel right now, and I kind of felt like maybe this was supposed to start last year, but then injury happened, that we might be a little bit more equally yoked with East and West since Durant kind of comes over to the East. Obviously, we're seeing some changes over in the West. It seems like it might be, I don't know if I feel like it's the Clippers-Lakers show. Tell me your thoughts about the Clippers, because I just don't feel – I know there's Kawhi, and I get that, but I still don't feel they're the force to be reckoned with as people might think they are. Am I just giving them not enough credit?
I think it's a little bit of – I think you're partially right there. In terms of comparing the West and the East – for years, obviously, it was the East that was this top-heavy conference, and you had everyone else really trying to fill in the rest of the spots in that 1 through 8. Now, I kind of think that shifted where the West is this top-heavy conference, as you referenced there, with the Lakers, and then behind them, I guess the Clippers and the Nuggets would be the next 2 teams in line. But there's definitely a drop-off there, despite what we saw last night. But no, if you look at the East now, that's the conference, I think, where from top to bottom you have more teams that are going to be able to compete for that top spot with Milwaukee, or at least give them more of a run for their money than I think you're going to see out West with the Lakers, assuming they can stay healthy, of course. But to answer your question about the Clippers specifically, I think it's a put up or shut up year for the Clippers, to be quite honest. Obviously, Paul George signed that big extension after he said everything he said about Doc Rivers following that decision to let him go. He played well last night, obviously, after a little bit of a rough start. And the only thing I could imagine last night, if he would have had another bad game, how badly he would have been dragged today after signing that big deal. But it's definitely on him. It's on Kawhi Leonard to show that they're as good as they've built themselves up to be and how everyone else has built them up to be, because last year, the Clippers were supposed to be the team that won the West. They were supposed to be the team that, took home the title for the first time in franchise history, and they couldn't make it out of the semis. So, it's definitely on them with a new coach. Some of the additions they made, bringing in Serge Ibaka, and some of the other pickups they made there this offseason, they've got to contend. They've got to win because that's what that team was put together to do. And honestly, with what they've paid, anything less, I think, is going to be viewed as, it's just not worthy of what Steve Ballmer's being asked for this front office and coaching staff to put together.
The Bulls start tonight, and you mentioned Patrick Williams. I'm really liking him, and I didn't know a lot about him either. I had to go back and check some of his highlights. This guy is, and then you started seeing highlights coming up on YouTube and things like that, where he seemed like an all-around guy, good at everything, great at nothing. Kind of a jack of all trades. And then you see him in the summer working on his game. You see him, and talk to me about where you think this guy can go. Because I'm liking the pick more and more by the day. By the day, I'm liking this pick more and more. They're calling him Little Kawhi. He seems to have a solid. I think he's above average in everything, and I think he could be great in one or two things. He's not there yet, obviously being 19 years old, 20 years old. Mm-hmm. I think he's got a good foundation for superstardom. Your thoughts on him, on Patrick Williams specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything you said there is pretty accurate. Coming out of college, he played for a great coach in Leonard Hamilton down there in Tallahassee. Obviously, NBA experience. He's been at Florida State forever and consistently won. So he got that great foundation, that great teaching in his 1 year there in college, albeit, one that was cut short due to the virus. But, you take that and then you see kind of what you're referencing here, what you've been able to see over the summer, what he's been doing in the preseason. And you do look at someone who has that sort of approach and looks to have that sort of attitude where, they're just going to be a workman. They're going to come in and work on their craft and really try and become the best basketball player they can be. And that seems like all he really cares about, from what I can tell. And that's really what you want in a player, especially someone who, as you noted, really, especially right now at such a young age, can do so many things well, if not at an above average level, that gives them the opportunity to continue to hone those skills and take things to the next level, really, where you become elite or in a great player. You reference people have, talked to him as labeled him as like a baby Kawhi or something like that. When Kawhi came in the league, the biggest question was he couldn't shoot. That was why he fell so far in the draft. And obviously, that has been something that he worked on with the Spurs. And now he's one of the, he's basically a robot is what people look at him as because he's so clutch. All he does is do the right thing pretty much all the time. So if you can get a player like that, Bulls fans got to be ecstatic about it.
Guys, we're joined by Michael Bolden from CBS Sports, talking NBA and Bulls action right here on Shawn and Maya on SportsZone Chicago.
I think the timing of it, especially with having Donovan and Cheeks as a coach, I think that makes make a huge difference for him. You dial this back, and if Boylan's still sitting in that seat, issues and problems with his development.
We're having a much different conversation if Boylan's
we're having a whole different. He's like, "Where's your lunch pail?" And you did not bring your time card. When I look at the East, it's interesting, and I wonder if the one team that's going to have a chip on their shoulder has to be the Heat. Because after watching the Nets, which everyone anticipated this was what that was going to look like, I think a lot of people feel like, okay, this is the team that obviously is going to be dominant in the East. But when I look at it, I kind of look at this as still in the sense that, yes, obviously Brooklyn's there, but you cannot discount how well the Heat played last year. I'll be honest, I still have big question marks about Milwaukee. I just don't feel they have enough when you talk about going through the stretch. So I think that puts the Bulls in a very interesting position. But the team, I think, besides the Bulls that I question more is the Celtics. I don't get what's happening in Boston.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, and then they're starting the season with Kemba Walker nicked up again with that knee that's still bothering him. He's, from what I've read, he's not going to be back until sometime in January. So they're going to have to start the year with Jeff Teague as their number one option at the point. And, no knock on Jeff Teague, but he's not the player he was 5-10 years ago. He's a fine backup at this point, but I wouldn't want to rely on him as my starting point guard if I'm the Celtics, and I truly envision myself contending in the East. For Boston, I really think they're going to go as far as Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown can take them. I think the pickup of Tristan Thompson was fine, but he's only going to provide you guys so much, as an anchor on defense, maybe a good rebounder and screener, but you can't assume he's going to provide anything really on the offensive end tangibly in terms of scoring.
If he can even stay focused, but right.
Yes. Yeah. No, But if you had trouble staying focused in Cleveland, it's might be a little bit more difficult in Boston. But, in terms of them, I really think it's going to be up to those youngsters and whether those guys really take the next step. I think Tatum is really shown that he's capable of being that number one guy. And now I think it's really Brown needs to show he's at least that number two, because the way I look at the Celtics, Kemba Walker at best is your number three scoring option from someone who's going to be consistent and reliable upon at that point. And like we've already said, he's already dealing with injury issues, which is something that has become more and more common for him as his career's moved on. So for Boston, it's really got to come down to those two guys, I think. And whether they can maybe do something later on in the season with that trade exception they got in the Hayward deal, maybe they pick up another piece at that point. But as of right now, the way that roster is built, I think they go as far as those two young guys can take them.
I think it's going to be tough because, they're sitting in that division with Brooklyn, it's them, and then they've got
Philly, Toronto.
We can discount the Knicks, but but then again, Philly's another one of those teams that I'm at one point, when do they decide that Ben Simmons is maybe not what you think he is?
Yeah. You gotta, that's what I think they're going to try and figure out in these first few months. Now the Doc's there and Morey's in place in the front office. I think they had a fine offseason going out and doing what the previous front office really struggled to do, which is put shooters around Simmons and Embiid. I think the addition of Seth Curry and Danny Green, even though he's maybe not necessarily as efficient as he was during his San Antonio days, I mean, he could still play good defense and make some shots from the perimeter, at least to make defenses respect his ability to do it, which opens things up for Simmons and Embiid on the inside. But yeah, I mean, I think between now and I believe March 25th is when they said the trade deadline is going to be, we're going to find out a lot about the Sixers and what Daryl Morey and Doc Rivers really feel the future of that franchise is going to be. Because if one of those guys gets traded, it's going to be Ben Simmons. It's not going to be Joel Embiid as far as I'm concerned.
I agree with that, definitely, for sure.
Guys, this is Michael Boland from CBS Sports. Hey, great stuff, buddy. We appreciate it every time you come on. But do me a favor, let everyone know where they can find you online.
Yeah, absolutely. As you noted earlier, you can find me on Twitter at mbolandcbs, and be sure to follow us at CBS Sports NBA on Twitter and cbssports.com. We have everything you need there, from live blogs to recaps of the action every night and everything in between. So be sure to keep up with us.
Hey, great stuff, buddy. You have a Merry Christmas, okay?
Hey, thank you. You guys too so much. Have a great one.
Yep. All righty. Thanks. Guys, Michael Boland from CBS Sports. There's a lot of that, a lot of storylines in the NBA.
I'm telling you,
Bulls. A lot of storylines.
It's going to be it. Well, one, let's see how healthy everybody stays.
Yeah.
That's the first thing, because we're not in the bubble. So this is going to look a little different.
And that's a storyline in itself.
Right. So let's see how this works now. So no one has to sneak out for chicken wings. You can still have your chicken wings,
Mm-hmm.
But
wear the mask in the club.
I don't. Can I just tell you how much I don't? Maybe I'm speaking from a mere mortal standpoint, but there is no way, if I'm any of these athletes, I'm in a strip club. If that's the case, you can probably just bring the strip club to your house. If you're that desperate to see booties jiggling, if you that
go ahead, baby.
If you are that desperate, I don't know. I might be talking like a woman. I don't know.
No, you're not.
It makes sense.
Here's my thing: membership has its privileges.
Bingo.
When you got that much dough,
yes,
you go get your guy and say, "Look, I need some entertainment. Go find me this." You get them tested, because you can make your party safe. Do that in the privacy of your home. Why are you out like that?
Why not just build the strip club? You have a basement. You got a 5,000 square foot mansion. So put a pole in the basement. And your boys.
Right.
You got the money for you got a booming system anyway.
Go get your little live DJ, whatever it is you want to do. You know what I'm saying? And you'll say, hey, you just give me an hour or two of just private dancer, whatever.
Yeah, for some change. I'm saying.
I'm like, these are some of the most they're not intelligent.
Like, if you're going to waste money, do it on that. Do it safely where you can still get the same experience, still get, the experience.
What can you get for $40? I don't know if you want to mess around with $40 deals, but I'm just saying, I don't know. I don't know what you've been getting for $40, but you might want to step your game up with this. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I guarantee you, these guys go to these strip clubs. I'm pretty sure they know the owners or whoever. There's no way you can't say, hey, won't you send over Diamond and Crystal?
No, Cristal.
Cristal. Right. And Alizé. Once you have them, I'm looking for a private show. You can get the rapid test, so you can get your resorts back literally, in an hour to make sure everybody's good. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you do touching you ain't supposed to be doing, that's your business. But I'm just saying, why are you out in that? I don't get it. You have membership has its privileges. These things can be catered to you. But yet, you know what I think it is? I think it's a need for people to be seen.
I agree.
I think there's a narcissism to be in the club, throwing money around, getting the attention. They need that. And this is why they don't have enough common sense to do it in the privacy of their own home. So which makes me feel like maybe it isn't just about the entertainment aspect of it.
Guys, joining us today, James Harden.
I was kidding.
Like, in the club today is James Harden. Give it up for Houston Rockets, James Harden. They're like, yeah, what's up, baby? What's up? Yeah.
And that is the experience. As athletes walk in, everybody's attention shifts. They get everything for free, which always blows my mind because they don't need anything for free. I'm like, dude, the people who are rolling in dough is getting everything for free.
Why is that?
Because you know what? It makes the owner, it makes them feel good. Because you know what? It makes them want to come back and be a patron. Then you can say that so-and-so comes to my, you know what that is. Because, when you just mere mortals, it doesn't matter. It's not important if you or I are there. It's James Harden. And you can say that he comes to your club and blah, blah, blah. And
Want to see NBA ballers? Just come to my club.
I think it goes a little further, man. Because it affects like not us, but maybe us, but it affects other people. Because they're like, oh damn, James Harden was here. I want to go again to go see if James Harden's going to be there. Other NBA players, it strikes some intrigue in the minds of people because they're like, damn, I just went to this strip club and a shit ton of NBA players just walked through the door and we were just throwing dollars everywhere and it was just ass cheek shaking and everything. You know what I mean? It's a crazy experience.
It's a man thing because it's not going to draw me in. I mean, I'm not.
Shawn was like, yes.
Yeah,
I like that kind of
party. You guys score.
I like that kind of party.
Not so, yeah, not my kind of party. Sorry, guys.
Listen, we got to take a break, and on the other side of the break, we got more sports conversation. We're going to wrap it up. The last segment. Don't go anywhere, folks. Shawn and Maya on SportsZone Chicago.
Hey, this is Gary Payton, and we listen to Shawn and Maya in the morning. Do that.
BoomerNaturals.com presents the Sports Flash on 1330 and 95.9 The Zone. The NBA season getting underway tonight. The Bulls at home against the Atlanta Hawks. 7 o'clock Central tip-off at United Center. First of 3 straight at home for the Bulls to open the season. They'll host the Pacers on Saturday night and Golden State on Sunday before heading out on the road. Tuesday night at Washington. New Year's Eve against the Wizards in D.C. Then New Year's Day at Milwaukee before returning home against the Mavericks on Sunday, January 3rd. The Bears looking to make it 3 straight wins when they visit Jacksonville this Sunday. Noon Central kickoff. They'll wrap up their regular season at home on the 3rd of January against the Packers. On Tuesday, the Bears activated wide receiver DeAndre Carter from the COVID-19 list and signed running back Spencer Ware to the practice squad. This update brought to you by the Score app. Download the free Score app today. It's one of the most popular sports apps in North America. Chuck Sanders, that's the Sports Flash, 1330 95.9 The Zone.
Listening to this Allstate commercial about savings might be the hardest thing about getting those savings. Save for simply becoming an Allstate customer. Save more for adding DriveWise. And save even more for driving safely. Visit Allstate.com or contact your local agent for a quote today. Allstate. Minimum effort, maximum reward.
Not available in every state. New customer savings based on early signing discount. Drive-bys is an optional feature. Savings vary based on how you buy. Subject to terms and conditions. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
There's an underdog story happening today in America. Small businesses are fighting to make a comeback, but in the moment they have the least, they're giving the most. They're rallying communities and neighborhoods, yet asking for little in return. Well, it's time we gave back. Small Unites is making it simple for everyone to take action and support the small businesses that unite us all. Find out how you can donate, shop, and share today at smallunites.org.
Let's be there for them.
Welcome back to Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago. If you're wondering, like during what are some of the things we do during break, like we'll go grab a quick bite or we'll grab something to drink. This is what I'm doing. So I got a massage gun, okay, and I have a bruise in my thigh. I was hang clean at CrossFit, and I was banging the and from the ground, I was banging on my thigh, and it obviously it's going to be the same spot every time. And it started hurting yesterday afterwards and then today. And so I'm like, all right, let me get this thing. And this thing is unbelievably therapeutic. It hurts so good. Right on that muscle and that knot. Oh, Jesus.
I noticed that I see more of those like in promotion in places, So
you see NBA players with them on the bench.
Oh, I mean, give it a look. I mean, I'm sure it's great. I was just like, okay.
Like, what are you doing? And why are you making that face, Shawn? I'm like, no, it's just a massage gun. That's all. Just a massage gun.
Okay. Yeah.
All righty then.
What you were just doing is just letting us know if you have a strange look on your face. That's why.
Yes. Okay. Yes, that's why. That's the reason why. Why?
Gotcha.
Oh, speaking of that, did you hear in March, Coming to America 2 is coming out?
I know.
I'm like, I want to see. I'm excited to see it, and I know I shouldn't be as excited as I am.
Why?
Because the sequels are very rarely as good as the first.
Well, Bad Boys
30. Bad Boys 2 was good. Yes.
I mean, Bad Boys
better might have been. Bad Boys 2 might have been better, but like it's 30 years later.
But that's okay. But that's kind of cool because it actually allows the storyline to have grown. There's so much they can do with that now because it's 30 years since they actually were able to get together. So now you can see how that played out. They can have kids. You know what I mean? So it's interesting.
So I watched the trailer, and apparently, and we'll get to sports, guys, but if you're in our age demographic or a little younger, you've seen Coming to America, and you should be anxious about the sequel. So apparently, he's on it. So apparently the sequel is he's got a son here in the States, and he didn't have, and Eddie Murphy didn't have a kid in Africa, which is far-fetched because there's more than enough African women over there, especially if you're the prince or you're going to be the king. And whatever happened to Sherry Hadley, maybe she's not able to have kids. Who knows? I don't know, because she's in there too,
right?
And so he's like, and because I saw in the trailer, James Earl Jones, Mufasa from The Lion King, says that he's like, you have to go find your son in America. And I was like, whoa, what the heck? And so now I'm like,
there you go. Yeah. They're already giving you a little controversy in there. So no, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I mean, there's the one thing that COVID has definitely stifled has been the movie thing.
Yes.
So okay, I don't want to promote it because I need to talk to Ellie about this. So I'm doing the streaming service that we talked about. Whoa, wow. What you pay? Whoa. I'm telling you, it's good stuff. So I was watching some movies. So I guarantee, I don't know how they're doing what they're doing, but I watched Tenet.
Okay. Yeah, we got to talk about it after.
Yeah. I watched Greenland, which is not even out really yet. Interesting stuff. So I did see the trailer, so I'm like, oh, that's going to drop in there. Oh, and so is Wonder Woman, but guess what? They're not willing to give you yet because they want it to be released in the theaters. James Bond. They're not willing to concede on this. They're not. They're like, we're trying to hold out because we want this to be a theater release. I think that's crazy.
Isn't Wonder Woman out this week?
25th, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't. Are theaters actually open? I don't.
Some were, and I think obviously social distancing. Because nowadays, if you go to theaters, there's like two seats, and then they're in like love seats or two seats together. Then there's little.
I just partition. When I drive by one, it just doesn't seem like anything is really open. But I'm not going anyway. So I was like, that's no. Yeah,
Vernon's on fire, dude. Vernon's on fire. If you're really a prince, I'd marry you. It was the one he gave the earrings to when she threw the earrings back at him.
Well, we know that you were really into Coming to America. Okay. You know all the lines and stuff. That's fair. I think the only movie I actually know the lines to is Predator. Because they're so short and simple. I ain't got time to bleed. I know stuff like that. I retain nothing else. I swear I don't. You know what needs to come back, and people need to start planning it right now to prepare for COVID lingering? Bring back the drive-ins. I love drive-ins.
They're back.
I mean, but they need to come back in full force because it's appropriate now.
They're back. In the city. There's one on at SeatGeek Stadium every weekend. There's one in Pilsen. Right off of Cermak, and what they do is they stack the containers for the semis, so they'll stack them as the backdrop, and then they spread a sheet. They have a big screen, and then you pay it's like $30 or $40, and then you go in, you tune it and they have a concession stand.
But this needs to be worked on right now because there's a high probability that we still might be kind of battling this, and tons of people would definitely go to I love the drive-in. So
I've already gone. I've seen what did I see? I went once, and I wanted to go again. I was supposed to go again, but something came up. But yeah, I love going to the drive-in. Those things are awesome. They have out in the south in Country Club Hills. They have one there too now as well. So they're all over the place. You can go and it is dope. You bring your own food, you bring your own drinks, you bring your own everything.
Just charge to get in, and people can watch stuff. I'm like, especially if theaters want to try to get back some of that revenue. There you go. Bring back the bring back drive-ins, which they never should have left. In the summer, I was always a fan of drive-ins. I'm like, why not be outside with your window down? You know what I mean? So hopefully we'll see more of them will pop up in the summertime, and we'll get to do that. And because there's way too many movies that are supposed to be released. And it's, HBO Max is trying to take over the world, but that's still me sitting in my house. I want to be outside. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Well, we digress.
Yes, we do.
Go back to sports. And Maya, I want to get your take. This whole college football playoff. We had Dan Wetzel on from Yahoo Sports the other day.
You had Dan on?
You did have Dan.
Oh, okay.
And just talking about this whole situation. There's a lot of things that I'm definitely not happy about. But the things you got to realize is they're all about money. And the bottom line, if it's going to make them money, if it's going to be a revenue generator for them, then it doesn't matter. Any rules they make, they break, they'll change, to do whatever. So the Ohio State thing, that bugged me.
It bugged me. It bugged me big time. I thought that wasn't fair, but like you said, we know why they did it. They went and made the rule and changed the rule just so they could get in. But here's how I feel about this. When it's all said and done, I'm okay with Notre Dame being in there, even though how much I hate Notre Dame. But they played the games. You know what I'm saying? They played the games, they won games. And believe it or not, this is probably one of the better Notre Dame teams I've seen in a long time. But they're not as good as Clemson, and they're clearly not as good as Alabama. So for all it's worth, I get to watch them get massacred again, and I'm going to enjoy it. So I'm glad they got it. Ohio State, the same thing's about to happen. Clemson's about to eat that up. So I'm like, you're giving us something that doesn't matter. You know what I mean? When it's all said and done. So I didn't like it, but we know it's about revenue. It's about that's the team from the Big Ten that they want. Because if that was anybody else, I'm going to tell you something. If it was Iowa, if it had been Michigan, had it been anybody else, I do not believe they would have made that concession. I don't either.
I don't either. No. And I was really, really rooting for Fitz and the Cats to really throw a monkey wrench in that whole program. To the college football playoff. That would have been amazing. First of all, it would have been a great win for Fitz and his program. But just because they, like you said, they wanted Ohio State in there. And truth be told, Ohio State, I think, is one of the best 4 teams in the country. But you've only played 5 games, 6 with the Big Ten championship. There's other teams that have played more, and the Big Ten decided not to play, or it wasn't that. Their games got canceled because of COVID. Big Ten made a rule, and they should have stuck by the rule. But they're like, nope, we want the revenue. We want the revenue that comes with being in the Final Four, because God forbid that Ohio State does win the first game and they go to the national championship game. Well, man, I mean, that's even more money. Damon Wayne, more money. And that's really all it's about. So I was a little annoyed with that. And the Notre Dame thing as well, I'm like, but again, revenue. Notre Dame fans are Notre Dame draws.
But they also, but Shawn, they won the games. Okay, we know that technically, I already felt that Notre Dame was too highly ranked. I felt Texas, I felt like they got, that wasn't fair. I'm like, dude, that's not fair. I didn't like that at all. But for what it's worth, Notre Dame did play the games and won a lot. I mean, the record was great. We knew the first game against Clemson was a mirage. We knew that. But people kept giving them credit. I'm like, look, they didn't have Trevor Lawrence, and it took double overtime to beat Clemson without him. So what does that tell you? But everybody likes, for some reason, to hold Notre Dame's whatever.
Jockstrap.
Yeah. Drives me crazy because you know how much I hate them. So it's not that they're bad, but the matchups you're going to get is more exposure. You know what I mean? It's not going to be good for them. Mm-hmm. So I was like, you win, you're going to get beat by the best 2 teams in the country. That's just how it comes. That's what it comes down to. And I honestly believe if you put Texas A&M before Ohio State, now you're cooking with gas. I believe that's a game. That's a game to me. But I wasn't happy with it at all. I was very disappointed that they made that concession. Like, you put that rule in place and now you're changing it to accommodate them. That's BS. But
wow, listen to this. This just came across the wire. This is interesting. All right. James Harden says, I wasn't at a strip club. And this is according to Bleacher Report. It says Rocket Star posts IG story as league reportedly reviews video of him maskless for COVID-19 protocol violations. He posted a response on his Instagram, and he says, one thing after another, I went to show love to my homegirl at her event, not a strip club, because she's becoming a boss and put people in position of success, and now it's a problem. Every day is something different. No matter how many times people try and drag my name under, you can't. The real always ends on top. So he's saying it wasn't a strip club.
Yes, it was. You were in a strip club, and I guarantee you there were strip club things going on. So your girl had some balloons and a cake over in the corner because she was, whatever she was doing. First of all, what kind of person is having a party at a strip club? That's my first scathing indictment of character. I'm moving up in the world and I'm celebrating at a strip club. Okay, not that I'm like wholesome, Holly, but I'm just saying, does that add up?
Prudy Penny.
I mean, that too. But I'm just saying, who is celebrating their successes? Like if I'm moving up in the world, why am I having
Maya, there's a lot of people who enjoy the atmosphere, and they know the owners. People party where they want to party.
Okay, so with that being said, I have to think about who I am and James Harden and what people expect of me. And the league is sensitive to like trying to make sure that COVID is not spread. So here's the thing. It's a place you shouldn't have been. And then you were there without a mask on top of it. You know what I'm saying? So you put yourself in a compromising position. He's celebrating with Meg the Stallion. I hate Vernon. So, I mean, it's not a place where he should have been because the NBA season is starting. You know what I'm saying? So you could have put yourself, I mean, it's just, people don't get it. You were there, you were in the wrong place, and send her some flowers, do something else. It just, whatever, James, don't try to put a spin on it. You were in a strip club.
Apparently he was trying to celebrate his girl who's making boss moves.
I can't even, you know what, that just sounds stupid. Sounds stupid.
Putting her people in position to be successful. Hey, at least she's doing it, and Matt Nagy didn't do it for the last 2.5 years.
You're making boss moves, all right. Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. Like I said, and maybe it's judgmental of me to say that people want to celebrate their successes in a strip club.
It is.
It is. I'll own it. Whatever. But I'm okay with him being scrutinized because you're in a different role. So you have to consider what your role is in this situation. But again, we get people who break out the bubble for chicken wings. I mean, what do we expect? These are just people who don't really appreciate that they're living their dream. They're doing their dream job. You know what I'm saying?
Vernon is killing it this morning.
I think that was chicken wings at the strip club, Maya. Chicken wings at the strip club.
It's a birthday. I can't. Vernon, we're talking about I'm spicy today.
Vernon is a birthday WAP club.
If I'm spicy today, then what are you? Okay, an inferno. Okay, because you just been lighting it up today. I'm okay with him scrutinizing it. He can try to sell it how he was. You were someplace you shouldn't have been. That's just how I feel.
Yeah, I agree. Well, getting back to sports. So let's talk Bulls for the last couple of minutes of this one. There's a guy that Maya, you're a big fan of, and we all called him the safe pick, and you're like, no, it was good. And we're talking about Wendell Carter Jr. And Wendell Carter Jr. is a guy that we're really looking forward to seeing play. He's healthy. Billy Donovan has said in press conferences that he wants him to get more aggressive. He wants him to shoot the ball a little more. He's one of those guys that I really want to see. When you have the type of athletes that you have, and now they have a leader. That's the most important thing. You can have the best athletes and team in the world, talent in the world, but if you don't have a leader, it's all for naught. And now you got a leader. And now I'm anxious to see how him like Lowry have been given a second life, so to speak, with this new regime. And I truly hope that they take advantage of this, like way Mitch is taking advantage of his second opportunity with the Bears. I hope that these guys take advantage of the opportunity, because Wendell Carter Jr., I mean, you think of the things that this young and athletic Bulls team can do and how many problems they can cause other people. Like, I'm excited to see if him and Lowry finally step into that role. Like, okay, I am the ish, and they play their game to the maximum of their ability.
And that's what it comes down to, because I still want to see Lowry in the post more. It's the old school in me. I don't like my big man at the key, but that's, again, is emulating too much Euro ball. And I know he's Euro, I get it, but I felt like he really thrived when he was allowed to be aggressive in the post. You know what I'm saying? So let's like radiate his game from the post and then come out and create those opportunities every now and then for that, because we know he can do it. But I still think he's finding his rhythm. But I think this is the right people with this talent. And this is what it gets back. I said the same thing about Mitch. I'm like, Bill Lazor is good for Mitch and Montgomery and Kmet and everybody else. He's good for them. Donovan and Cheeks, they're good for Kobe White, for, Patrick Williams, for Levine. He's good for them. I was laughing because isn't Denzel Valentine still on the roster?
Yeah. Probably running that second unit.
He's going to be running the second. And here's the thing. Guy, unfortunately, his career was riddled with injury, but I think he's great smart on the floor for your second unit to keep things moving. I think it works. They still have RC Diacono and Sadaransky and all these other people on there, but the thing is, they work. And someone's commented to me, I'd be curious what people think about this, including you, the Bulls aren't good enough because they don't have a superstar. And I said, hold up, player. I said, don't get caught up into the idea of superstars, because before Steph Curry and Draymond Green and the Splash Brothers became those people, they were people you never even knew. You didn't know anything about them. They were good players in college, but then they were, they came to Golden State. Mark Jackson was there before, obviously, got developed and turned into the players and they're now superstars. It was about being in the right place with the right people to develop your talent. So no, everybody isn't like a Kevin Durant or a LeBron James or, even like, a Zion Williams. But it doesn't mean that they can't rise and be better than what you think in the right situation.
I think there comes to the point where you have to. There's an old saying that flowers don't get jealous when another flower blooms. Like, you can still be there. You can still be legit, but this is the mindset that they have to have, and this is the thing that Billy the Kid has got to make sure, and he emphasizes. We can all eat, we can all do our thing, and I think Kobe White is on the cusp of superstardom.
Mm-hmm.
I think Lauri Markkanen has that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and truth be told, Pat Williams, I don't know if he could be a superstar. He might be a star. So now you got 4 guys because I include Zach LaVine in that area. You might not have a one bona fide superstar, but if you have a whole bunch of stars on your team, yeah, that's going to be a lot more difficult to defend as opposed to one superstar and a couple and a lot of different role players. You get 3 or 4, maybe 5 just stars and not superstars. Now you're talking a team that can contend, and if they're coached well and properly, yeah, there's a shot that a team like that, a team with that type of makeup, can get to and win an NBA Finals. Because when you're a superstar, everybody knows you're getting the ball. Or if there's 2 people you got to guard. Those are it. But when you got 4 or 5,
that's the difference. And that's the thing that made Golden State so dangerous. It was Steph, it was Clay, it was Draymond, and then when they added Durant in, that was just so unfair. You know what I mean? And there are teams, and that was called team basketball, which a lot of people forgot what that looked like. You know what I mean? So the Bulls may be constructed to play more like team basketball, but that can be very advantageous in regards to spreading the ball and obviously making it more difficult, like you just said, for teams to defend you, because there's more than one option. There is more than just LaVine. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You gotta be mindful of different different players on the floor. So I said, don't discount the fact that this team can grow into becoming very superstar-like, but it won't be like what you're used to. It won't be like, this is LeBron, you know what I mean? Or this is Kawhi. But then again, you never know, because Kawhi wasn't that shining star when he was in San Antonio. He was developing, he was growing, and he all of a sudden just blew up, like, when he went to Toronto. So sometimes people are late bloomers. I said, so you don't know what you have on this Bull team because they've been so mismanaged for so long. Trust me, Zach LaVine could barely make the All-Star game in his own city, and that's crazy.
I think this is going to be a situation where that's very foreign to us, where we have guys who can evaluate talent and maximize it for the Bulls. Actually, the Bulls and the Bears are doing now, but the Bulls in particular. And I think it's going to be great to see Kobe White. I mean, the kid's 19, 20 years old. Imagine him 4 years from now. This will be after 4 years. It'll be his 5th year in the league, and the kid's going to be 24 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Like, literally not even in his prime yet. And it'll be 5 years into the league, and he won't even be in his prime. And think of all the knowledge and experience he's going to get from playing and from being under the tutelage of Mo Cheeks and Billy the Kid. This thing, Zach LaVine, another one. All these guys, when you get great coaching, goes a long way. And when you have great talent to go with great coaching, wow, it does wonders. And I think it's going to do wonders with this Bulls team. And I can't wait to see the game tonight. I'm going to be at Output tonight. We're having like a little it's outside. There's a tent. It's socially distanced.
Mm-hmm.
There's only 4 people. Yeah. There's only like 4 to 6 people at a table. Yeah, they have it set out. He's trying to make all that money. Anyway.
Hey, you know what? No one twists your arm to do anything. So do you. I'm like, so it is what it is.
We're all masked up. So but yeah, so I'll be there. And so what he's done is really great. So he's got 2 like 75, 80-inch TVs, one at each end of the tent.
Mm-hmm.
In the middle of the tent, he's got a projector, so it projects onto the tent, onto the white tent.
Oh.
So if you have like a 35-foot screen. 30. It's crazy. So
Nice.
So I'll be there for a little bit tonight before I come home and go back to CrossFit tomorrow. Well, wow.
Work off your wings.
Work off the wings. Yes. Yes. 3 hours has come and gone. Unfreaking believable. Guys, we want to thank our guests, Eric Lambert from Sports Mockery, calling in, talk a little Bears with us. I can't wait to see, man. I can't wait to see Mitch. Can he continue, Maya? Can he continue this, 250, 300-yard game? Is Bill Lazor going to continue the play calling the proper way with featuring Montgomery as the feature back, giving him 20 plus carries? The fact they gave him 32 carries last week. I almost had a grabber. I was like, I can't believe that they're giving this guy. But Cordell Patterson got hurt too. That helped a little in that. But you know what? You ask any running back, what if we gave the ball 30 times a game? Most of them will say, why not 35? That's what most running backs will say. Well, why not 35?
Mm-hmm.
And if he continues to do that, I think it's going to be a pretty simple game for the Bears as we prepare for next week's matchup against the team up north, and because that has implications. But I'm looking forward to the Bulls tonight, and I'm looking forward to the Bears on Sunday because it's a pretty good weekend coming up for sports for all of us.
It's gonna be good.
Yeah, and then I want to thank we also want to thank Michael Boland from CBS Sports. He's the senior NBA editor over there, calling and talking NBA with us, talking Bulls with us, and the Bulls are looked at a little as a real deal now. Now that they have basketball people and you got a very well respected head coach and in Billy the Kid, they're looked at differently, and it's nice not to be the freaking laughing stock of the NBA as we were the last 2 seasons. And we haven't even played a regular season game yet.
But then you brought a little Chicago in. You brought Mo Cheeks home. So people are interested and they're invested. You got Chicago in the mix. So and you've got competent management. See, that's the other thing.
Yep.
So
yep. You got basketball people making basketball decisions, and you've seen the good decisions that they've made to this point. Guys they brought in, not re-signing Lowry. I think that's great. I think that's a great motivational piece for him.
Mm-hmm.
Lowry is one of those guys that should be one of the big three, and if he can, with his skill set, the big three, him on the Bulls, him, Levine, and Kobe White, and then maybe Patrick Williams in a couple of years, man, this team's going to be really, really something to deal with.
You know what? I'm seeing a trend with Reinsdorf. Go younger for longevity and building both of the teams that I own. So the culture shift is we're younger, so now we can win. We can be competitive longer. We'll see.
That's crazy. Yeah, as the White Sox have signed Cespedes, Yohan Cespedes' half brother. They signed him to a contract. What was his name? It's an interesting one. It's
Did you go to Lakeview?
I did.
Okay. I was like,
I was waiting for Shawn to finish his question, then I was going to answer, or finish his what he was saying, then I was going to answer.
Oh, because that's where Armando went, to Lakeview.
Well, so yeah, he said that. I was like, okay, look at that.
Yeah, crazy. So you know what, guys, we'll be back on Monday. We won't be back on Friday. Bosses gave us a day off. They are so cool. We appreciate them. So we'll be back on Monday. So guys, make sure you have a very happy, safe, and Merry Christmas.
Enjoy your libations at home. Check on everybody. You know what?
Oh, Maya.
What?
Did you see yesterday what came up yesterday on Facebook?
Well, what?
It was the time where we had the coquito from.
Oh, yes, I did. I was like, man, where did we get that from again? Yeah, I saw that.
I got a bottle in the fridge. Thank you for reminding me.
I had to pick up. So I called Isela because it was her sister who was selling it. So I called Isela and I was like, because she just had a baby, and I was like, hey, I need 2 things. 1, what size is little man? Because he's growing like a weed. And 2, I was like, is your sister selling coquito? And she's like, no, her and her husband just bought a house, so they're not doing it. And so on that thread that I posted.
That's why you should be doing it. Get some extra revenue
going. So she said next year she's definitely back in the market next year. I'm like, because I said that was some good. The 4 flavors, that was some good stuff.
Man, and I'll tell you what, we were sampling. I was like, okay, what's up? What is this?
I was like, oh, this got a little kick.
And it did though. I was like, wow, okay.
We did the live after the show,
Mm-hmm.
and so we had Neaton, and it was noon, And it was a strong coquito.
It was.
My cheeks started getting red.
Right. No, it was so warm. I was like, wow, okay. You should really drink this at home. It's like one of those things you drink, you're like, I think I need a nap. Yeah.
Yes.
It was like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
all right.
We got to go, guys. So for my lovely co-host, well, first we want to say thank you to our guy Ivan Vargas. We want to say thank you to Clarence Council. He is our social media guy. I want to say thank you to our executive director Elliot Baez, of course, Maya Kai, and all of us together. We were able to put together a good show for you. So for our Puerto Rican Swiss Army knife, Ivan Vargas.
Until next time, guys. Merry Christmas.
And my lovely co-host Maya Kai.
Au revoir, mon Louise. Merry Christmas to you.
That was a little French accent. Merry Christmas to you. Guys, I'm your boy, the Superback Shawn Sierra. We'll see you back on Monday. Ivan, you'll be on Sunday, correct, with the pregame, the Bears Monster?
I'll be on Friday, Saturday.
Oh, that's right. The NBA's playing. I mean, the NFL's on Saturday.
Yeah, weekend.
Man, so you're going to see Ivan. Make sure you tune in. You'll catch him all weekend on SportsZone Chicago. So until then, until Monday, I am going to say, when you'll see me again, we out.